And we're live. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am Zimzilla. So, yeah, I'm just gonna wait here a little bit, see while people kind of come their way into the stream. Well, I'm happy to see you again, Omega Gene ZX. I know for a fact that there's a few people streaming tonight, so there's a good chance not everybody who's gonna want to come in is gonna come in, which is why the most important part of this stream, which is going to be the debate, is going to be cordoned off into its own little video. Once that's done, so I'll just be downloading the stream, editing that out, and making a video out of that. And Laggy Acris comes in. Sup, Carl? That should be my new internet name now. It's just Carl. But it's good to see you all again. I'm happy that only some people are tuning in right now. It's just a matter of waiting for more people and sort of seeing what's up. What I'm actually going to do is need to not just share screen, but I also need to copy the link and send that to the other person who is going to be coming in later. I should send that to Discord, let them know. All right, that's good. That's all 98 for the lulz. No, it's not for the lulz. This is a serious matter of extreme import, but you know how it can be sometimes. But obviously there's only one person in here, but audio sound good and all that. Just want to make sure. Because last time there apparently was no audio at all. So I can actually just check that myself as well. I'm gonna quickly mute myself. Is it? Nope. Okay, audio does seem good. Yeah, everything seems fine. It's good to know. But also, probably what I should do is just let people know that we are live. That's always the big thing. And it's really funny is knowing when or when not to like say you're live. Either you promote it hours in advance, or you just wait and then you have to wait for other people to show up, or I'll be like, oh yeah, it's live now, so come in. But tis the life. We are live. But in the meantime, since of course I have only a half an hour to do this part primarily, I am actually going to bring up some videos that are going to talk about Dawn of the Monster specifically, because apparently that is going to be getting a release date in March. So that's going to be fun to see. So there we are. And just to make sure, yep, we're all set there. Okay. So I may turn on the volume depending on how it sounds. Yep, that's too loud. There we go. Well, it says early 2022. There apparently was a scheduled release date for March at least, so we do know it's probably coming around that time, which is still part of the first quarter of 2022 for all these devices. Honestly, you can be picking it up for Switch, PS5, and Xbox One, maybe Steam. Hopefully, my rig can run it. But in terms of really fun things that we're seeing, this is the first time we're seeing some of the human characters. We're getting to see more of Megadon, Kyrus, and this is like one of the first times we're actually seeing the two new characters who hadn't been revealed yet in action. So this includes the Ultraman like guy here. It has kind of a wave dashy fox-esque kind of moveset to him. And then we've got the giant robot, which gives kind of a Mazinger Z-esque kind of vibe to him. But I'm super excited that we're getting new kaiju games, so that's awesome to see. And there was still talk that there was going to be no online multiplayer, so the only way you're going to be able to co-op with your friends is couch co-op. But hopefully they might be able to patch something in the future to do online multiplayer, because I think playing with people across the world would help out people who are in the community who just want to play this a lot easier, because not all of us live near each other to be able to play the game. So there's that. And there's also the story trailer right here. I don't believe this is this isn't the same here. So let's begin. And I should probably lower all the volumes for every single one of these. Just gonna mute that for a second. In terms of some of the new the new characters' names, we have the Ultraman kind of guys, Aegis Prime, and then we have Tempest and Galahad for our robot, and then obviously Ghidorah Megadon, which we had seen for at least 2 years now at this point. Obviously, it's been a long time in terms of when that first trailer came out, as well as how the development's been. That's all been developing through COVID. So that should be taken note of. I'm happy to see how far the game's come along. But outside of obviously the official trailer, the announcement trailer, it is weird because it's been announced for a while. And then obviously the story trailer, we also have the deep dive trailer, which is about 10 minutes. I also want to quickly check to see how y'all are doing. We got 4 people in the stream. Hello. How are y'all doing? Let's move back here. Thank you. Ads. Mute that out. There we go. I just want to go back real quick. Not that close. I probably have to go back like this. Nope, I went too far. Light attacks. We'll see in heavy attacks. This is something I wanted to point out here. Yeah, I was right there. So when this guy came in, Ganiro had already attacked. So with Megadons, his happened far before he had his windup, and then he just gets hit. I want to see if it shows here. Yep. Yeah, so he has a lot longer of a startup than Ganira's does. So we'll show right here. Yeah, so probably I know Ganira was touted back for a while, was the more defensive monster. So both of them came up as 50s, so they may just have base in terms of their heavies having the same base attack, and then Megadon is going to have a better juggle. But it's interesting to note that her heavy attack here did not stun, probably because the windup had already happened, while Megadon's his windup hadn't even finished, so that's why he got interrupted. As well as this monster is classed as a lighter monster than the Macaris that Megadon was fighting, so that might be something to take note of, but it's just interesting to note. Yeah, so that was a launcher as well as it gave him hyper armor to blast through all these monsters. This is the same Icarus that hit him too. So heavy holders, you could probably charge it up, move in closer, and then once you're covering ground with a strike, you can then wall juggle from there. I'm really curious to see how all these attacks work, because that is something that's really fun about beat 'em ups in that aspect. Yeah, so with dash attacks, hopefully they aren't an issue, because I know in a lot of games, even some beat 'em ups, where dash attacks are really good because a lot of times they stun or they can wall bank if you're close enough to a wall. But from the Megadon one that we did see, we didn't seem that bad. So he's just kind of rushing in with a charge, as well as there's quite a bit of a windup for him. Megadon's also considered what or was for one of the slower characters. With Galahad and Prime, we don't really know anything about them for a while. So he may be the slowest character, he may not be, but from his overall build, he might well be. So this dash tech may not be representative of every member on the cast, and there might be metas and tricks that are going to depend based on who it is. Well, okay, so go back. Yeah, right here. So Those are both parentheses and then a backslash in terms of where those are on your keyboard. Those don't actually, those really, no, they're not too bad. It's a little farther up on the other side of your keyboard. That's not the worst thing in the world in terms of that placement on mouse and keyboard. You could probably change where that's going to be. And if you have an augment controller, or not controller, a mouse like mine, which has buttons on it, you may be able to just map them to that. I hope there's a lot of button mapping for PC because that's going to be very important. But in this case, they're all right beside each other, which means on controller, they're probably going to be a bunch of different buttons. They might be the D-pad because that might be the easiest place to put them if they are somewhere else, so that like it's very easy for you to click on what you specifically want. Because when I was looking at that first, I wasn't sure what that was, but now that I'm looking at it closer, I can see which key buttons those are on my keyboard. But let me just turn off the volume right here because I just want to look at some things and talk about them over it. So, well, he's blocking, so I'm not sure if block's going to be a specific button, but they look like they're fast and easy to use. But in Aeon's case, that's just one little rage attack there. Primes is a speed boost, so it's a defensive attack. They describe it as this is an augment, so probably Galahad is going to be kind of like a weapon skill type character from a fighting game in terms of all of his rage attacks, and a lot of what he does to set up combos is him getting progressively stronger rather than kind of rushing down and attacking like Megadon, or being speedy like Prime, or defensive like Ganira, which, speaking of Ganira, when you see it here, Ganira is able to summon minions for one of its rage moves, because again, they're very much more defensive character, so they're going to be fun to play with. They all really seem like well thought out characters with unique archetypes, so it seems like there's room in the future if they want to add more monsters as DLC to do that, or if they want to add more like DLC campaigns, that'd be fun as well. I do know that in terms of, we see characters here, I'm gonna go back. Almost all these look like they're screen fillers. So obviously this one, obviously after using all the rage attacks, it goes, they're not going to show it, so we'll show it later. But this one, obviously, it fills the entire screen. Of course, it's kind of like a somewhat 2D, so you can go up and down the screen in that aspect. So it's not filling up the entire screen, but it is filling up a complete straight line. But even right here, this one feels like it fills almost the entire screen. So it's going to be interesting because Megadon seems like it's more centralized and fills up the AoE around him, rather than a whole single quadrant to either the left or the right, depending on where you position yourself. And there's that blade. Yeah, I thought I was going to skip it. I'm going to go back in a second because I do want to check something here. So obviously with the alignments, we use Burn's pretty easy. It's damage over time. That's something I understand pretty well. Let's get out to the rushdown. Ganira's water, same thing kind of with Monster Hunter, how water works there, or slowing down, or like the sticky mud for certain monsters there. Shock seems like it's going to have a quick stun, and you can place it as a trap because going back, it looks like he set up a trap there, and that's going to allow Galahad to augment his weapons. And then Erode, I'm not really is Erode I'm not really sure. Oh, it for me, I'm not sure if it's giving him extra damage or if it's just sort of another damage over time thing. I wasn't really sure about how the erode works. I'm gonna have to look back again over that footage. Okay, so I'm actually not going to go back to the footage there. It looks like, in terms of telegraphing enemies who either don't or do get executed, is pretty good. They're working essentially the same as glory kills. However, unlike glory kills in Doom, you have to have at least 1 bar of rage to be able to activate an execution, unlike a glory kill in Doom, where you can do that at any point as long as the enemy is within that glory kill range. I'm gonna have the game in my hands to know how I'm gonna like that, because I'm not sure if gaining rage is gonna be harder or not. But if you're just beating things up, you should be gaining rage pretty easily, and that's gonna allow you to have a pretty good rhythm with how you play the game. And you're not gonna be kind of rushing towards getting certain achievements. If, like, maybe that might be something they want to do, is like an achievement to only get executions. But in terms of these kind of quote unquote glory kill system, there, the executions work well. That's good. I do like that, in terms of the fact that we both have perfect dodge and perfect dash. So that allows you to have perfect aggression, or if you're playing someone like Nira, having a perfect block allows you to have good setup with minion summons or drenching your enemies. So it's both rewarding for defensive and offensive players. I know there's no PvP, but if they ever did consider it, it might be something to look at in that regard. But for a single player beat 'em up, this is good. I like this. I like the fact that looks like the power cable does have Galahad's shock feature to it, so that's good. I like that. just gonna stop that for a second because I realized our guest is actually in here. Oh, that's good, Brandon. I'm gonna add him to the stream.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty well. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes still, but I don't mind stopping this and I can resume this later.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. You're ahead of time, and that's better than being late.
That's true.
All right. I'm actually just gonna stop the screen sharing there, and I'm gonna keep the format like this because I'm gonna actually use some screens, PowerPoints I made.
Oh,
So obviously, since
fancy.
this is the first time you've been on my stream, and this is the first time I've actually heard of you, you mind just introducing yourself to everybody?
So I am Braden. I run a channel called HDD Productions, where I wish I could say I have something that I do, but I kind of just make whatever I want. Right now, I'm currently trying to redo the color for King of the Monsters because I know that's a criticism that people have had. So, I might do other stuff. But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, and all the Cotton fanboys have been pretty mad about that, from what I've
Oh
heard.
yeah, yeah. Oh boy. The worst criticism I've received is I'm taking the style and soul out of the movie.
No, that's no.
Which I don't know what that means.
I guess it just means that every location had a specific color palette to it, and then changing up the color, therefore, for some reason, takes away the soul, which I don't agree with. I'd rather have a movie that has a consistent and very clear color palette rather than try to be stylistic and then not really doing a good job.
See, it was obviously all part of Mike D's vision to have Godzilla's first entrance be orange, which is supposed to be Rodan's color.
Truly.
That is clearly masterful.
Exactly, along with a different Godzilla design that shouldn't really fit in there, but you know.
Yeah, his tail just got chopped off or something.
His tail got chopped off. He grew his toes out for all the foot fetishy people on OnlyFans and all that.
Ooh.
And then he got bigger spines because everyone knows size does matter. Perfect transition into what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah. I forgot about that tagline. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. I heard that you had a video, or at least a script you were sitting on, about why Godzilla 98 is a faithful adaptation.
Yes.
And someone was like, hey, do you want to debunk this? Because at this point, apparently I had become the resident 98 stomper or debater. So yeah, you joke, but I think if I should have sent you the playlist, because I have an entire playlist that's been from years of just 98 debates, as well as just looking at my Twitter. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Huh.
A lot of my debates, the meta behind the debates have changed, but I definitely wanted to make sure I was prepared for this. So I spent at least a little bit of time watching a few movies, that include 2014, 84, 54, both versions, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Giant Behemoth, and then, of course, 98, which is the first one I watched. But obviously, since you're the guest on the panel, I just want to hear your thoughts out on why Godzilla 98 is a faithful adaptation, just so I can get a parse for your opinions on it, so I'm not confusing it with someone else's opinions.
Okay, so first off, just want to set groundwork.
Yep.
When I say faithful, I'm speaking conceptually, because if I was speaking execution, I would actually argue that most Godzilla incarnations are not faithful if we were going purely off of execution. And also, I kind of don't think that's fair in terms of faithfulness. Myself, I generally try to focus on execution, but for our dear boy 98, or as I call him, Fred.
Yeah, I noticed that was apparently a meme on the channel, because I was watching that subjective Godzilla tier list and I was like, wait, Fred? Because I was like listening to it in the background, and I kept on hearing Fred's good. I'm like, what's Fred? And then I had to go back to video. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because that was actually what they named the CG asset, is Fred.
Yeah.
So when we discovered that, we just started calling him Fred. Because, yeah. I think a good example of the concept versus execution is, I don't know what your thoughts are on King of the Monsters Ghidorah, but
in terms of him being faithful,
just in general, I guess mainly in terms of execution within this specific context at this moment.
I would say, in terms of execution, he's bare bones faithful. In terms of design, essentially looks like a more realistic version of the Heisei design. In terms of origins, pretty bare bones Showa, but power set or ability as a antagonist, he's not really well executed, I guess, in that aspect.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, that would probably be my thoughts on it. In terms of him being faithful, I'd say he is probably objectively faithful, but subjectively or even objectively on a metric of faithfulness, he is kind of on the lower end of faithfulness in that respect.
Yeah, because like I am of the belief that he is a horrible antagonist. He just fails in that respect. But
Yeah.
I I would still call him Ghidorah because on a very conceptual level, he is just, well, big dragon destroy world,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, unfortunately that's enough for Ghidorah at this point, given how he's been portrayed in the past.
I would also say that in terms of, I would say adaptation has to have at least a layer of compatibility with its original source material. So if we're looking at Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, comparing it to King of the Monsters Ghidorah, a giant three-headed alien golden dragon that has essentially the same silhouette, same abilities, but then added on, is why I think he's a pretty good adaptation, regardless of execution, which I think is still lacking.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, which actually goes into a question that I want to ask you,
Mhm.
which does tie into like my whole stance. To you, what do you think? Like, what would you say is Godzilla?
Okay, actually, that's gonna have to go into some slides I have set up. So let me share those. Share screen, Windows. Can you see this or no?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, so
Oh, I see
going off
Hanna
here,
Barbera.
I would say the object, like the platonic Godzilla, has to be at least related to nuclear energy in some way. He has attributes that are at least possessed by the first incarnation, which at minimum would be the atomic breath and immunity to conventional weaponry. And he has to have at least one underlining theme, those either being a force of nature, an antagonistic victim of tragedy, a loose allegory for a destructive entity, or a loose allegory for man's recklessness. The last two can technically be interchanged, but I consider them two different things. But in the case of the 54 Godzilla, he fits all of those, and then there are only a few that fit some of them. So I would say the 84 Godzilla, regardless of its execution, fits all of these pretty well. However, he's also a lot more animalistic, which is something I hold against 98 because this Godzilla can be more faithful in both appearance, ability, and still be animalistic. Then we have the MonsterVerse Godzilla, which is still radioactive, but not directly mutated by the bombs. And he is still a force of nature. However, the execution of that is varied, to say the least, depending on film to film.
Yeah.
Shin Godzilla would probably be the best out of all of these. In terms of the color coding right here, the yellow is kind of like a debatable topic. So with immunity conventional weaponry, we do know that Shin was damaged by bombers. So you could say he is not really immune to conventional weaponry. However, in the context of that film, the moment he gets injured, he strikes back even stronger and displays a higher ability to contend with the thing that just injured him. And he's not injured in the same way again. So he essentially has developed an immunity to those conventional weapons. Going down, we have Phileas and Earth. And I wasn't able to fit him properly on this screen. So that's why I put Earth there to make it look kind of cool, I guess.
Scale accurate.
Yeah, scale. Actually, I think I'd have to scale him a little bit bigger
He's
if I want to
much
get him
bigger.
scale accurate
He's a
because he's
big
50
boy.
meters. So yeah, he's had to be like this. But we do know that this Godzilla is radioactive, so there is indeed a nuclear origin there. Possesses all of the at least first incarnation's abilities. He is indeed a force of nature. He's a loose allegory for a destructive entity, as we do learn in Planet Eater. And we do know from at least Metphius, we're not sure how well of a narrator, like whether he's a reliable narrator or not, if he is indeed like the result of man's recklessness. But I would be more willing to say he is, because that more strongly enforces the theme of that film and the trilogy as a whole. So I'm more inclined to believe him rather than not. And then we have Shin, not Shin, Singular
Ultimate.
Point. Oh my goodness, people are gonna gatekeep me over this one.
Oh boy.
But Singular Point's interesting because he's not really related to nuclear power, but he still has his atomic breath, which means there is indeed some kind of nuclear nest to him. but he's still immune to conventional weaponry. He is indeed a force of nature. He can indeed be interpreted as a loose allegory for man's recklessness, as well as he's indeed a destructive entity in and of himself, which is why he's a force of nature. He's not really a victim of tragedy, as he's not really related to that first Godzilla we see dead, but he at least feels enough to be considered a Godzilla in most of the traditional sense, and he makes up for it with his appearance. But then we get to 98. So with 98, he is indeed, without a doubt, related to nuclear energy. He's a mutated animal, works well. However, he does not possess the atomic breath. I have some notes as well that I have printed out here. I just want to get to the specific statements. This was something that Keith Aiken, do you know who Keith Aiken is?
I actually do not know.
Keith Aiken was, he wrote for Sci-Fi Japan. However, he also worked on Godzilla series. So when he says this was something from a Facebook article. I can actually show you the picture if you want to see that as well. So I'll have to actually stop sharing here and show there. So let me go back, share screens, Word document. Yep. There we go. So that's the line he said. I just want to go down to the bottom part where he says Dean objected to Godzilla using radioactive breath because in the 98 movie Godzilla didn't have that. So a lot of people always like to say that the power breath and atomic breath are like essentially the same thing because they're still breath weapons. However, if Devlin made a distinction and says that they're not the same, then I think we as the audience members, as well as people who are analyzing the media, can also say that they're not the same. So I would say authorial intent in this case matters. So that's why I say
regarding
you want to say something?
The atomic breath, I actually like that is one thing I definitely do agree is a big hit against the incarnation.
Mm.
And while and this is part of the like difficulty of concept versus execution, you know, the conceptually Fred or 98 is supposed to be sorry, force of habit. It's supposed to be like I know this is used a lot, a realistic animalistic take. And by that logic, yeah, no atomic breath. But like I said, concept execution.
Are you before I do something as a counter, are you committed to the animalistic take? Do you believe that that is a legitimate reason to say that the atomic breath should be used because he's being more realistic?
In terms of the atomic breath, no. Okay. I agree. The lack of an atomic breath is a big visual distinction against the incarnation. Like I do think that is a flaw of him.
Okay, because one thing I would say for an argument is that if we are saying that Godzilla is indeed an animal, then really there can't really be much allegory in what he does. Everything he's doing is governed by instinct. So really we can't draw anything thematic from him, which sets him apart from other Godzillas. But we also have to take into account that as a giant monster, there are other aspects of him, such as the square cube law, which is the easiest thing to debunk about 98. The fact that in terms of posture, a creature of his size is not going to be able to stand like that. If anything, Godzilla 2014, as well as Shin, or even the original Godzilla, based on their posture, as well as how they're designed, look better for giant monsters based on having a lot larger like legs, thighs, tail, etc.
Bottom heavy, tail for support, all that. Yeah.
Even like the largest theropods, which would be Tyrannosaurus and Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus is a lot longer than T-Rex and it looks nothing like 98, as well as Tyrannosaurus is a lot more bulkier than 98, but they wanted to go for something that's lethal and fast. So biomechanically, if we're going from a naturalistic argument, I can't really support it because we're looking at something that's far more like a raptor than anything that's like an actual large megatheropod or even a sauropod for that matter, which is what they were going for with 2014 with his legs. So that's the one thing I've always had an argument with when it comes to the naturalistic argument. But going back to kind of these things right here, very much 98 is a victim of tragedy being a mutated animal. However, he's not antagonistic in any way. And with the 54 Godzilla, he's definitely antagonistic because he's meant to be allegorical in that sense. His antagonism draws upon the experience of nuclear weapons, so that's why he's antagonistic. But because 98 is an animal, there is no allegory to gain from it, so therefore he thematically loses a lot of what he's doing. And then also we need to take into account that Roland Emmerich has also said that what he did, what he took from Godzilla, was just the basic storyline of a creature mutated by atomic weapons, and that was about it. So any other things we can kind of add on to him being faithful, don't add to that.
On
But
the
yeah, what
topic
were you
of
gonna say?
Roland Emmerich, that's another thing I definitely agree with. Roland Emmerich, he's a to be generous, he's an interesting guy.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I his approach to this, I do not think like was very respectful at all. Like his
Hmm.
approach, which is where I would say art versus artist. Um, because not only like the Patrick Tatopoulos, the guy who designed Godzilla, I
Yeah.
remember reading that he was a big Godzilla fan, and that
Ooh,
despite
before
like
you continue,
Mhm.
do you believe Dean Devlin was a Godzilla fan?
I've heard mixed things on him, so I don't know what to believe. And
So I would say that um, from probably the most well-known kind of chronicling of '98, Dean Devlin was not a fan of Godzilla. He went on to say, but the reason for not doing Godzilla was obviously Dean Devlin. Both of us thought it was a dopey idea the first time we talked. And Chris came back to us. We thought it was a dopey idea. So that was something he had said originally. However, he would later go on to say that they were Godzilla fans. So this was later on once they had gotten they were on the project. He said, downplaying Roland Emmerich's criticism, Dean Devlin told the press that we are huge Godzilla fans. So of course, people like to say things in the media,
yeah,
obfuscate
for
things
press, for
here
good
and there,
press and stuff. Yeah.
but it's very clear that from both these statements that have been found. Do you want me to link you the article for this or no?
If you want, sure.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, I'm always up for like production info, but my point was, I I know it's a big thing held against the incarnation that obviously, yes, Emmerich did not care. Dean Devlin did not care. However, I do think it is interesting that, because I know this is the whole point of the discussion is, I do think there was something like moderately faithful. Uh, so that's what I meant by the art versus artist is the
Mhm.
artist did not care, but I do think the art on a conceptual level uh, does meet criteria for like faithfulness, which I do want to comment on the whole force of nature.
Mhm.
I think it could be interpreted that he is a force of nature, maybe not like a. I know another big criticism against him is he's not well antagonistic. He's not very like upfront in his attacks. He does a lot of more like strategic running away and then
Mhm.
sneak. Well, if you could even call it sneak attack, because he does teleport at one point.
Yeah,
Um,
literally.
yeah, yeah, and see that's another thing that like again the execution for so many of these things I'll admit are not good.
Mhm.
Like I also rewatched the movie. It's so bad. I really enjoy it for how bad it is, but like yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of things are not executed well. But I do think on a conceptual level, this big I am going to call him an animal, although
Mhm.
I will admit, yeah, he doesn't follow a bunch of animalistic traits. Um, this big animal on the loose. He's not as aggressive as other Godzillas, but it's it's a problem for New York because they make it a problem. So I
Mhm.
think in that sense, he could be interpreted as a force of nature. Maybe not the
Mhm.
all powerful force of nature that everyone wants Godzilla to be.
That would be another argument I would put is that I don't think Godzilla fans are necessarily looking for a all powerful force of nature because once again going back to '84, which also aired in the U.S., we do see a Godzilla that is far more animalistic. His methods of like how he's moving is far more like he's just feeding on nuclear energy, and he really only makes landfall because he's not going there because he wants to nest or anything. He's just doing what an animal does and feeding on energy
Yeah,
in that
he's
sense.
hungry.
So he's still able to contend, be immune to conventional weaponry. And then once the Super Rex comes in, we see him be immune to, well, missiles, but they are still specialized missiles that are designed in a way to take out specifically radioactive targets. In this case, Godzilla's natural radiation is countered by the cadmium missiles, which is something if obviously this is being anecdotal here, but a lot of fans thought that, oh, if the missiles were something special, then they probably wouldn't have as much of an issue because Godzilla wasn't killed by just ordinary missiles. He's killed by something specifically designed to hurt him, which is why people liked the Super X, people like the Oxygen Destroyer, people like the orthogonal diagonalizer from Singular
Yeah, all
Point
those
or the
fancy
Vulture.
weapons.
Fancy weapons, because if Godzilla is indeed the product of the most powerful weapon in history for us, then it's important that he's only taken down by something as powerful. And something I found interesting is that when in 84 specifically, in the American version at least, when they're discussing how to deal with Godzilla from the American side, they put a lot more effort into actually trying to kill him. But then obviously Steve Martin comes in and explains that there's nothing that can really kill Godzilla except for obviously the Super X when that comes in, which just kind of shows the nature of Godzilla being an all powerful, not really an all powerful, but a powerful force of nature based on his attributes. And I think obviously you're gonna find some kids who are like Godzilla can't lose to anyone, but I think most
Yeah,
people are
that's
able
something
to
that.
like understand
Ay,
that
ay.
Godzilla being defeated by either another monster or a weapon designed to kill him or counter radiation makes sense within his character as well as what he means allegorically.
Yeah, and I think this will go into another point, so I'm just gonna say
Mhm.
On, and I'm gonna use the word again, on a conceptual level, I do feel that they tried to do a tragic take like on 98,
Mhm.
which it was not executed very well because the scene where he's dead and they're just looking at him, I would argue that's a pretty good scene in a vacuum, unfortunately, because
Oh
it's
wow, I'm actually surprised you actually took the said that, because I've always said a lot of cases that yes, in a vacuum it's sympathetic, but when
yes.
taken through the greater context of the film, it's not that sympathetic.
Yeah, because it's completely ruined by
Mhm.
what comes after, and it's all celebratory, which just is a tonal whiplash.
Mhm.
Uh,
But I would also say in terms of tragedy angle with I would say 84 doesn't do this as well in comparison to 54. However, with 54 we do know that there's at least some kind of malicious intent behind what he's doing, because clearly he's not, excuse me, going there to feed or to eat. He's just going there to destroy, which obviously ties into the allegory. But there is indeed a bit of sympathy that's tied in with his antagonism, which is why it's still tragic that despite Godzilla's antagonism, he's killed. With 98, there's really, it's a lot more cut and dry. Essentially, I've always compared 98 to a deer that ran into my house. It's now wrecking like my furniture, my TV, my good old Xbone, my PS5, all of that. And then I
and
have to
then you
put it
kill it.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm not necessarily feeling bad for said animal because now it's just coming in towards me and into where I live. And it's not even like in the case of 54, we could say that he went to Tokyo because it fits the allegory. This animal's going from French Polynesia, crossing the Pacific, crossing I think probably the Panama Canal,
Yeah,
unless
that
he
was
traveled
definitely
all the
another
way
thing.
around.
He has no reason to be in New York.
Exactly.
Like
There's so
it's
many
it's
people who have said that
stupid.
it makes sense because animals will randomly nest in certain places, even though that's
Yeah,
something that
not that far.
biologically not that far and not somewhere the species isn't endemic to or has ever been to.
Yeah, something I've learned is I don't think Godzilla fans really understand animals.
I think they do, but like they will, it's very much a pick and choose kind of thing,
Yeah,
as well as
definitely.
this is something with movies where people will say this is something about animals that's like
Just for
kind
the
of wooky
plot.
and crazy. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's for the plot. But then when you think about it in the greater sphere of things, that's not really how animals could do. But also, not to mention with the Japanese films, they are still indeed more monsters than animals. This works a lot more for all of like the early 50s American monster movies. So like It Came From Beneath the Sea, Tarantula, Giant Gila Monster, stuff like that. But when you're dealing with stuff from like Ultraman or Gamera, you can deal with animalistic traits and it still kind of be quote unquote realistic. But then when you start giving excuses for kind of out there behavior, it starts to become less and less believable.
So yeah, going to the deer thing,
Mhm.
uh, I would actually argue that you can feel sympathy for that. I mean, obviously it depends person to person. Some people wouldn't. Some be like, "Oh, the pest is gone."
Mhm.
Um, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Is it the fact that Godzilla is lowered to something where he was more of a nuisance instead of an actual threat?
That would be partly because of that, but I would also say that if because he's really just a threat, and due to how the military deals with him throughout the film, it feels like they weren't trying to kill him. They were just kind of doing things willy-nilly here and there, and it just so happened that when he was chasing the car and trying to eat it instead of just stepping on it and being done with it, that he finally gets killed. The plot finally demands that he dies.
Yeah, and
So
the
I would say the
military.
best comparison would be Godzilla does this, and then Godzilla does this, where in 54 it was Godzilla attacks Tokyo, and therefore Emiko and Ogata go to see Serizawa, and because of them convincing them,
Each event
Serizawa
leads
then
to
goes.
another.
Yeah, each event leads to to another in a logical
Whereas
way.
things happen, yes.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, whereas
I
things
would
happen in
say
98.
that is another thing of the concept versus execution. I'm not trying to use it as like a
Mhm.
shield. It's just I do feel when it comes to faithfulness, the concept is what is there. I have had discussions with people of like, well, let's say you had Spider-Man without his web shooters, like would that still be Spider-Man?
Mhm.
Uh, I would argue that if there was like a semblance of responsibility, yeah, it could be Spider-Man. I don't know what you think of Zack Snyder's Superman.
I would say he's not really a good Superman.
I
Actually, no,
agree.
Batman would be a better example in this scenario because this is a Batman that kills, but then people still say
I
it's a faithful adaptation of Batman.
I'm of the belief it could have worked if
It could
it
work,
was
yeah.
executed better. Yeah. But yeah, I guess my point in that sense is they definitely do mess up things about the characters. Ironically, I'd say it's the opposite of 98 to where they keep the designs, but
Mhm.
they throw out.
Exactly.
Um,
It's the same issue, but on a different side of it. Because in Batman's case, he looks like the Dark Knight Returns Batman, but acts nothing like Dark Knight
yeah.
Returns Batman. While in Godzilla 98, I would even, well, the other thing is that in this, I would say 98's case, it's worse because, in my opinion, he doesn't really act like Godzilla. It doesn't look like Godzilla. That'd probably be my biggest issue there. But another issue is that I would say that Snyder's case is not as bad because it comes down to an actual want to create something, but then just misunderstanding it. So, like, have you ever watched the BBS behind the scenes stuff with Batman and him wanting to make Batman kill?
A while back. Oh, you mean his interviews?
Yeah, his interviews.
Which ones? The older ones where he's
The
just
one where
trying
he
to
talks
like
about how Batman killed in The Dark Knight Returns.
um I don't
If you
recall that one, but I
want, I can go to I can pull up a video where you know who High Top Films is. I assume you do because you watch EFAP or Malo's
yes, I do
Discord.
watch
Yeah.
EFAP, yeah.
So, did you
Yeah,
ever see the one where they talk about Batman doesn't kill?
I've not seen that one, no.
Okay.
But in terms of the whole Snyder thing, what my whole point, as simplistic as it was, is they are still like the characters. Um, Again, I'm going to argue with 98 that he still keeps some of the faithfulness. I'd say with Snyder's they don't, but they're still legally the characters, and I'd still call them the characters. This is
Mhm.
mainly directed towards the whole calling 98 Zilla, which I personally think is kind of petty.
Yeah, I would say in that case, I would say the argument at that point boils down to a legalist one, where
Oh
it's
yeah,
this is the
yeah.
law, and I would be like, I would say just say you're a legalist, and we could drop the point there in a lot of cases for some people because that's what a lot of 98 fans say. Well, it's still technically Godzilla, and I'm gonna be like, sure. Just say you're a legalist and that's about it. I mean, do you understand what the term is when someone says they're a legalist, or do I have to
Yeah.
explain that? Okay,
So
so just a
yeah, I
legalist is
was.
meaning someone who follows the law to
Mhm.
the letter, and if it's in law, then
Then
it's
it's
always gonna
what goes. Yeah.
it's always a moral or ethical good in that case.
Yeah.
So
So that
yeah.
wasn't the crux of my argument. I just wanted to like throw that out there.
Mhm.
Um, but where were we before that? Before that little
We were
tangent?
still talking about faithfulness, but I wanted to
Yeah, I'm saying
quickly
like the certain aspect.
yeah. I wanna pass over Showa Godzilla
Okay.
because that's gonna tie into a different point. But both Marvel and Hanna-Barbera's
Yeah, I wanted to ask
interpretation of
about the Hanna
Godzilla.
Barbera.
What did you say?
I was wondering what you think about Hanna Barbera.
It's essentially like a not very faithful looking Showa Godzilla, essentially. There's a lot of things I don't like, but then it's like you're still just a giant. Essentially, he's taking over the role of Showa Godzilla, just a giant monster, maybe radioactive, fighting giant monsters. And that's about as far as he's going. And if you're adapting the Godzilla from the 70s, which is, I think, what Saperstein wanted when he pulled it over to Hanna-Barbera, they did a good job adapting that. And of course, there's things they weren't able to get through, like Saperstein wanted the roar. They couldn't do the roar for some reason. And Hanna-Barbera gave them other abilities, such as the eye lasers and all that, or the fact that the showrunners weren't allowed to have Godzilla like killing people, so that's why they plots the way it is.
You would consider the fire breath atomic breath?
I don't consider it atomic breath, but I would consider it closer because he's breathing actual fire rather than breathing gas that then becomes fire. Because we see the power breath used twice outside of the first one we use as defense, related. And it's always just gas.
Yeah.
So like if 98 had like just shot real fire, that would have been better than what we got. And power breath as it is in the film is still better than it is in the script, because in the script it's just air, nothing else.
I remember that because they got backlash for saying no.
Exactly.
Breath, which is fair. Also completely random, just fun fact because I feel obliged to. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Gareth Edwards actually did not want the atomic breath in pre-production of 2014.
No, I know that. And I would say that honestly it's a good thing that he chose to, because the scene for the atomic breath was actually it's a good scene visually. Scene. And I will say this, I wasn't the strong, handsome older man I was now when I saw 2014. I actually thought for the longest time that he was not going to have the atomic breath. It had been so long into the movie, he hadn't fired it once.
Same here.
And I was content to have him not fire the atomic breath. I was like, hey, this Godzilla looks more faithful. He may not have the atomic breath, but I'm fine with that. And then I hear like the charging up, and I saw this in IMAX, mind you, and everybody in the theater started clapping, and I started clapping too because I was a little boy, and I was like, "Wow, wow!" And we all it was a good time. And yeah, and I've also never really had too much of an issue with how it looked per se.
Same here, yeah.
It's never been that was never an issue for me. As long as the atomic breath is atomic breath, at bare minimum, that is fine with me.
Something I know a lot of fans don't like, but I really do appreciate of the 2014 atomic breath is that they use napalm for reference, and there's a lot of like actual like fluid simulations that interact with each other in it.
Especially when you see it kind of shooting off the Muto, it does very much look a lot more like a liquid. No, like it was I would say that it did a lot better of a job than Cottom's or GVK's atomic breath in that sense. Both those are really good. It's just a laser at that point. And I mean, if they kept a more grounded tone, I would not have minded if Godzilla's atomic breath wasn't as strong as it is. I mean, not every Godzilla's atomic breath is the same, and I've been fine with that. I've never seen that as an issue that a lot of people think it is. So,
yeah,
that would be my view on it. But if we're looking at execution, I just want to run through some hypotheticals with you, if that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you seen Yongari, the 67 one?
I've heard a lot about it.
Are you talking about Reptilian or Yongari?
Both. I've heard Reptilian is an experience.
It's a trip. And I wish years ago when it was still like on DVD in stores, I bought it. So I have a digital copy, and I will always regret not having a physical one. But hypothetically, say you've never seen Yongari and someone told you that this was Godzilla. The monster is awakened from a nuclear test in the Middle East. He's immune to conventional weaponry. He doesn't breathe atomic breath, but he breathes fire. He's still a force of nature. He's antagonistic because he's awoken from his sleep. And he's still, some people say he's an allegory for North Korean aggression, but still some people consider him an allegory. If you did not know anything about Godzilla and someone said this was like another Godzilla movie from the 70s, would you think that's Godzilla?
Well, if I didn't have any knowledge, yeah.
Exactly. If you had no knowledge.
When they see a big lizard, they just think Godzilla instantly.
Well, and again, anecdotally, not always. Yeah, people. I would say that's something that varies person to person. But from my own experience, even before like I explained I'm a Godzilla fan, a lot of people always tell me, even off the bat, that hey, 98 was a movie. It wasn't really Godzilla, but it was a movie. I'm like, oh, are you a big Godzilla fan? They're like, oh, no, I just watched some of them here and there. I'm like, oh, okay. Which I'm not sure if it's just because of cultural osmosis that's why they have that opinion, or if it's just something that people see.
I'm of the belief that it is
cultural osmosis.
Yeah, because like, well, okay, I think we should continue this before we touch upon that. The hypotheticals.
Oh, that's fine with me. Because I'm always going to hypotheticals, specifically Rhedosaurus, Giant Behemoth, Gorgo. I would say a lot of these monsters, they can zero in on points that allows them to be more closer to Godzilla than 98 does in terms of their execution or zeroing in on a specific point about Godzilla's character. But that leads me into these two right here, which is the William Stout Godzilla for the 3D Godzilla, and then the Stan Winston
Duck Bill,
Godzilla for
man.
the John DeMont Godzilla. I would say the William Stout Godzilla is interesting because he's still a product of radiation like 98. He's immune to conventional weaponry like 98. His atomic breath he still has the atomic breath. Force of nature, victim of tragedy because its child dies, and an allegory for man's recklessness. But it still dies, but it dies to a special kind of missile, which I find interesting. They're called dragon missiles, and they kind of kill him, similar to how they killed Varen in Varen's first movie, where they drop the missiles down his throat, and that's also kind of how Godzilla is defeated in 84. So I kind of find that interesting. And then, of course, the John DeMont Godzilla, not technically nuclear related, but still bioengineered, but still has some radiation qualities to him. And I would say this is probably a faithful adaptation of, again, Showa Godzilla in that aspect. But which leads me down to this point right here. So obviously this is Godzilla, but do you know what the significance of this is to 98?
Wasn't that what Toho sent to them? And they're like, "This is your base" or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, in the case these two obviously are far closer to what Toho had sent them. The four main things that Toho had stipulated. There is a large legal document that I have downloaded that I can also send to you after the stream that talked more about the stipulations with Toho and TriStar, which 98
I've actually been
ended up
looking
typically
for that for
breaking.
a while. I would appreciate
I'd
that.
have to look. I'd have to go through my Discord again. Someone had sent it to me, and I can send it to you. That's fine. But in the case of these three, the stout one doesn't really take Godzilla seriously because apparently he fights fights planes with like buildings like swords. So obviously one of them took Godzilla a lot more seriously than the other. Outside of this one, they all maintain a nuclear origin. His is debatable. They both keep the original look a lot more. This is the only one that actually doesn't die. These two die. But I would say, in terms of I would say 98 really doesn't take Godzilla all that seriously, in my opinion, especially with the baby Godzillas at the end. Like, I would, if you're talking about tonal whiplash, the tonal whiplash where they're running inside Madison Square Garden, and then Nick just throws like bouncy balls and gumballs on the ground, and then
Yeah, and then
all
they
the
just
babies start slipping and sliding.
I would say the baby 98s are easily the worst. Like they're just raptors. They're just discount raptors.
They're discount raptors indeed,
Yeah.
as well as it
They're
also breaks down the significance of Godzilla's son to the Godzilla mythos, which was always significant about there only being one and how much that meant to Godzilla as a character. But if there's so many of
Minya.
them, everyone loves Minya.
I'm so
Good.
sorry.
That's better. I better hear you say I love Minya on this stream right now. I swear to God.
Dude, I don't know how much you've looked through my stuff.
I have looked. That's why I want to do it for the meme.
Okay, Minya is God incarnate.
Good.
He is. We need to pray to him every night. We need to beg him for forgiveness. We
must go to Sologil Island, the Mecca of Minya.
We need to pray to Minya.
It's okay, like, Minya Allah.
Yeah. Oh. I'm sorry. The moment I hear Minya, I just break.
Again, Minya Allah.
What is this? What is this discussion?
We went from talking about 98 to Minya Big Allah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Baby Fred's not good at all.
We don't like the baby Freds.
They ruin a lot.
The Fredlings.
But going with Fredlings, I'm gonna start calling them that. Yeah.
Yep, they're Fredlings now. There you go. There's new lore for you.
But going back to taking Godzilla seriously, I would argue the movie wants to. I think a big part is how he's shot. The scene where he comes from the ocean, destroys the dock, and then the scene where he first comes out of the ground and he eats that's a lot of fish, blah blah blah. I honestly think those are beautiful scenes. Like they're shot very nicely. Yeah, the CG's trash. Fred himself, the actual CG asset, I don't know
Yeah.
what they were smoking. That thing is awful.
It's really
So
interesting
bad.
because they weren't using ILM's tech anymore for 98. They brought on Totopoulos' team,
Yeah, they
and
used
you could just tell.
what is it? Um well, I know SPI was attached to it because that's Sony's
Yeah.
in-house. But yeah, Viewpoint Data Labs is the one that made the Fred asset. And that thing, oh, that thing is an atrocity.
Mhm.
Outside of the name. But yeah, barring the CG, which yes, I'm admitting is a huge issue. The way those scenes are shot, the sound, I think one of the strongest things about 98 is his sound design and his sound
Mhm.
mixing. He just it's incredible. He feels huge. There's a lot of like low frequencies
Yeah,
to his
infrasound.
roars, to his growls. Yeah, it's awesome.
I would say that if there was one good thing that really came out in 98, it was the roar, because that elevates 2000 a lot more, because I would
Yeah, where they
stand on
got
the fact that 2000's roar in the American is a lot
they
better
used a
than
lot
it
of 98
is, yeah,
assets,
and
yeah.
it has a lot more bass to it, which is something I would say that like Godzilla didn't have a bassy roar for a while, because like obviously 54 has a pretty good bass to his roar, 84 does, but then obviously Showa doesn't. They kind of toned that back on the
I don't
Heisei
know what
ones.
happened in Heisei. They did.
Honestly, it would say not to like put too much hate on 98, but a lot of the production of those films was them waiting on what America was doing, because they were gonna kill Godzilla, Mecha Godzilla. They said, "Oh nope, we're not gonna do that." Same thing in Space Godzilla, and then same thing in Destroy It, and then until finally the film came out.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of where I do feel he was treated with respect for the most part because, yeah, cab scene, awful. That cab
Mhm.
scene is a mess. He treats him like a joke. He trips. He makes this funny noise that I have listened
Like
to
that.
way too much. Yeah, it's like rah rah, or it's so weird. What I don't even know what that is.
Or the
That's
fact that
definitely not
like
good sound design.
once they are stuck in that tunnel, he starts kind of acting like a cat or like a
Yeah, he just
dog trying
stares
to,
at them like use
yeah,
your
instead of
breath.
just use your breath, just a dig, literally dig.
And then even the military, they're like, "We need a clear shot." No, no, his head is stuck in the tunnel.
His
Like,
yeah,
just get him.
yeah, literally. If they if they literally just got out of that car and they just kept running, or they kept the lights on in the cab, they could literally just bomb him completely.
Roland Emmerich is a interesting fellow who makes
He's
interesting movies. There,
I would say this is something I've always said about 98. It's the fact that like its first half is pretty well paced for the most part, as well as how it treats Godzilla is pretty good
yeah,
until you get further context to the character in terms of what he's doing. So we see both with 84 and 54 and 98, Godzilla's first seen attacking these ships. So of course with 54, he's doing that because of relating to
out of
the
like
Lucky Dragon
vengeance
number
and stuff.
5. Well, it's vengeance, but also to tie back to that tragedy that happened a year before in Japan. But then with 84, they're kind of mimicking the same thing they did in 54. And because 84 and 54 have pretty similar themes in terms of their allegory, it fits for them. But with 98, you realize the only reason he's attacking the ship is because he's hungry. And that takes out a lot of the like gravitas to the character. Where the another thing is that a lot of what Honda, as well as Shigeru Kayama, the writer, wanted to take out was a lot of what Godzilla's motivations were, and that was hunger. So like that's why we don't see the bleeding cow scene. Godzilla didn't come to Tokyo to feed. He wasn't doing things because he was hungry. He was doing things because there was still malicious intent behind his actions. With 98, when you're watching that for the first time and you see him trudging through New York, you're like, wow, yeah, the big monster, this is really bad. He's just trampling through the city, crashing through buildings, and like seeing him obscured by smoke after when they're at the Mayor Ebert's I guess it's a like speech or something for his reelection. That whole sequence really good outside of the CG itself. But then when you understand that, oh, he's just doing that because he's looking for food and he's looking to nest, it takes the wind out of the sails, so to speak, for me.
So I guess that goes back to like my, uh, or let me actually rephrase that question. What do you think of the son of Godzilla, Godzilla?
Actually, that's going to tie into another slide I have. So, whoopee, 1 second, let me get back into that. So, in terms of this is sort of like what I feel certain Godzillas are in terms of what they're aping off of each other. So with the 54 line here, we have Godzillas that are serious, either allegories or antagonistic forces. This is the line where it's more of like, this is an animal. He can be antagonistic or he can be heroic, but a lot of the times he's antagonistic. Radioactive dinosaur fights monsters. There's less allegory to the character itself, but he's a lot more malleable as a character here, and there's less thinking to do here as opposed to these characters here. And then the last few that kind of trail off here as well as here are characters who aren't as faithful to the archetype as these first few here. And I would say with Son of Godzilla, the character is at his least allegorical and he's at his least as just a kind of monster. But I would say in terms of what he is as a monster is just giant dinosaur, radiation, fights monsters. He's not trying to be a nuclear allegory. He's not trying to be necessarily a creature that's kind of remorseful or anything like that. It's very much the base kind of traits of Godzilla put in for the story, and it's not trying to be anything more than that, which I respect more than 98, which is trying to be a sympathetic creature lost in our time, mutated, therefore we should feel sympathy for him. And I also put GTS Godzilla here because I think that because he's not trying to be a nuclear allegory, he's just giant dinosaur monster with fire breath fighting monsters. He's able to fit a lot better within this category than I would say 98 does fitting in this category here.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Are you saying the fact that 98 tried and failed is kind of what makes him more insultive?
I would say he tried. It's not a matter of just trying. It's also a matter of being irreverent about it. I would say that like tied into the director, what he was doing, then how it's executed, then comparing it to other Godzillas, all of that piled onto each other makes it irreverent, in my opinion, and that's why I think it failed.
Because I also want to go back to what you said in terms of Son of Godzilla, Godzilla not representing anything. I would disagree. As silly as it sounds, I'd say he represents fatherhood and being.
Oh no! I mean, like being in terms, I would say he not representing like what Godzilla traditionally is. Of course, he represents fatherhood in that aspect.
Yeah, which is the answer, or at least my answer to the question of what do I think Godzilla is? I think Godzilla, like as silly and as simple as it sounds, I think Godzilla is whatever the narrative needs him to be.
Oh, I would say yes to a certain extent. And I would say that because Godzilla can be whatever the narrative is, but then you'd also have to get down how Godzilla is as well. So, for example, if I plopped the 62 Godzilla and gave him the character of Son of Godzilla, I would say that still works. I could put almost any Godzilla incarnation in there in terms of appearance, and that narrative still works. If I put 98 into most of the other scenarios, he doesn't fit as well. That's the thing. There's a lot. I would say the overarching thing I would say is that Godzilla 98 shares little with every other incarnation, even his successor, than all of them share with him, except his successor, which is mainly based on the fact that they're in the same continuity.
Sorry, I had to. The successor, you mean Heisei, right?
Successor is in GTS Godzilla to 98.
Oh. Why did I think that? I'm sorry, my brain went out for
no, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. I also said things kind of fast, so if you need me to slow down, just tell me to shut up and slow down.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. In terms of like he doesn't have as much similar, which I'm starting to see. I think this may boil down to we have different standards for how close something is to be considered faithful. As I said earlier, for me, it's just conceptuality, base, like just the base conceptual point. Because, execution's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, but I would say for me, it has to be, conceptually, what's it doing? How does it look in comparison to its predecessors? What it's doing compared to its predecessors? Contextually, what does that mean for the character, as well as the version it's trying to emulate? And then obviously execution. And that's why I would say that the let me go down this slide right here. Between nope, not that one. All of these Godzillas here. Let's go back there. With the William Stout Godzilla, it does a lot of what 98 does, but better, making it more faithful, in my opinion. And with the Delgado Godzilla / Winston Godzilla, you're dealing with him essentially adapting more of the Showa Godzilla, but more seriously. And based on that, I would say that's also more faithful. And then even with the more radical Godzilla, such as Shin, Earth, and Singular Point, they all have more things that are more faithful than 98 is, whether it's appearance, narrative, origins, etc. And those all tiny things add up as points to me, essentially, which is how I can then create what I would feel as an objective scale of faithfulness compared to other characters. I would say there's a lot of Toho Godzillas that would probably fall less in terms of faithfulness overall for just saying, compare this to 54. But I would say compared to Godzillas they're emulating throughout the years, they all are able to adapt something a lot more different in comparison to what 98's adapting, which is specifically the 54 Godzilla, and to a lesser extent 84, because there's things that are shockingly similar between all three of those films.
So yeah, it's for 98. In terms like adapting the 54 story, I know we already touched upon the whole sympathetic thing and like deer in the household kind of thing. I do feel that it is just drawing the sympathetic part. Could that be viewed as disrespectful? Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I would also say that that's where execution comes into play when you're looking at that, because if Godzilla is really meant to be sympathetic, then how the
yes, there are
military
a lot of
plays with him, there's a
executional
lot of
things that
yes, an executional error,
get in the
which
way of
then
that.
yeah, and
like
that
the
then
scene
therefore
itself.
compounds. Yeah. So for example, if I was to, I know obviously you had said that you don't really like it when people rewrite things of the script.
Wait, what do you mean
by
like?
Like, you know how you said that, like, if you're really gonna spend so much time rewriting a script, just make your own thing in your subjective Godzilla tier list video.
Oh yeah, that. Yeah, that's just me personally. I don't like, people do.
No, but I'm just saying, like, obviously, because that's something you said. I'm showing what I'm saying in this scenario here.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
This is all anecdotal. Oh, not anecdotal. This is all obviously more subjective in this case. But if I was to write a Godzilla that is far more sympathetic, I would still have to add more than what Devlin and Emmerich did to the characters. So if he's being attacked by things, we're not going to essentially run up to him with M16s and then allow him to escape. It should be a pretty big joint military effort. And if Godzilla is surprised by being hit by these things and then shows kind of like fear and then anger, that shows a lot more sympathy to the character and is still more faithful than him getting hit by like small arms fire, bleeding, getting scared, running away, and then having a chase scene that then results in helicopters firing at nothing and then all dying because Godzilla needs to escape.
So are you of the mindset that he is a coward, just to say?
I wouldn't call him a coward, because as an animal, he doesn't really have agency in that aspect. He's just an animal that's kind of running away. If a Showa Godzilla did this, it would be a lot more apt to call him a coward. But in this case, it's just an animal doing animal things, and then the military treating him like more like
as a pest,
not even as a pest, more like just just recklessly. Like, there's very little kill zones built up around the original.
They destroy more of the city than he does.
Or the heat seekers can't lock, so he's colder than the buildings around him. We're doing 80 knots and he's pulling away. This may be because like I understand how some of the tech works. I'm not military myself, but I understand some of the potential some of this military equipment can be used at.
Yeah, one of my friends.
I just think to myself, I'm like, why don't you just fly faster and then literally just light him up, or get so close to him you do hit him?
One of my friends did a search thing on the Sidewinders, and it's complete jargon. You don't use them in that context.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, and because there's just jargon and that allows Godzilla 98 to escape, it feels worse, because we do realize that weapons of similar magnitude are able to kill him. It's just a matter of the plot like waiting for Godzilla to die at this point.
We need a third act. We need
Yeah,
a
whereas with 54, Godzilla's immune to conventional weaponry. Because of this, because therefore we need the oxygen destroyer. It's a lot more simpler, I guess, but then it also makes a lot more logical sense.
Yeah. Which I guess this point is all up to perception. I would argue that's more of a fault of the narrative structure. Definitely a fault to the movie itself. That movie's awful. And not him himself. But
I would say it's a fault of the narrative structure because you were still writing the character like that. So, like, you can still have an aggressive Godzilla and a more competent military and still have him escape. I wouldn't like the fact that he's still immune to conventional weaponry, but you can still have that action sequence there to provide for your third act. But the logic behind it, as well as the world building, does not work a lot for me. And this is coming from someone who, like, a lot of what I do is world building primarily. So that's another big issue I take with it.
Oh yeah, like I said, the execution of that, which.
Real quick, when you said execution, do you mean execution as in like world building and writing as well, or do you mean execution as in like the actual visual execution of the film?
Both.
Because I would consider writing and world because I would consider writing and world building to be a different part of execution in comparison to the actual shooting and technical aspects of the film in that respect.
I would actually argue that's technically part of writing. Of course, this varies from filmmaker to filmmaker, but some write out how the scene will go and then storyboard, which storyboard is that technically writing? I've never heard it.
It is technically like I would say I would consider it writing because you still have to like explain how these scenes are shot and what's being done with them. So it does add to writing, but when I think of shooting, I mean like actually being on set or actually being using your tools to work on your assets, work on your models, touch up these scenes. Essentially, I would say execution is kind of like what you do with your King of the Monsters edits. That's what I consider execution.
Okay, so yeah, when I speak of execution, I'm referring to everything because I know like a lot of people, which I don't fault anyone's. Oh, for example, EFAP, they look at mainly writing.
Yeah.
When I look at a film, I usually look at everything, which.
I would say primarily because of EFAP, I consider writing and then like the physical execution of the film to be two different things. But that may just be because of an EFAP bias, but that may also be just like a perception thing too for me.
Oh no, I agree that there's execution for different things. Like 2014, the visual execution top notch, like incredible. But that script that execution just falls apart.
Okay, I can break bread on that.
Yeah, so I guess the question was more in this context. In this context, how do I phrase this? The execution of the scene is faulty, 100%. But what they do with Godzilla in that sense, and I know this is really faulty ground because I hate doing this, looking at it conceptually. It was the bare minimum, and I don't like giving brownie points. I
would say I don't mind giving brownie points, but for me, it's always like I need to have a stable like base for there to be brownie points to be given. So if we're gonna break down scenes, we can go with the power breath scene, where I would say in a void, seeing them chase down a giant monster and then that monster turns around and breathes fire on these trucks, killing them. Outside of everything else, it does present a little bit of awe and it presents a little bit of danger to the characters. However, in context with the rest of the film, this is a Godzilla who's
thing he does.
It's a random thing he does. He doesn't really do it again outside of one other scene in the third act, which, if a lot of people don't really realize that him roaring through that alleyway is the same as him using his power breath. Not to mention the fact that those two changes were only done out of a begrudging want to quote unquote please the fans. And because that irreverence permeates the entire film and what Emmerich was doing, given outside facts such as like how he viewed what he was doing. He didn't want to do it, although there's other cases where he said, oh, he did want to do it, he just wanted to do it his own way. Oh, I was given a choice here. Oh no, I just said this. It just comes across as him being bad faith and him just being Weasley, and realizing the fact that people just did not like the film. And this is something I'm not sure. Have you ever played Legacy of Kain?
No, I've not.
Okay. Good series, really great writing for video games, but there's one line Kane says where he says, hate me, but do it honestly. I would rather him just say, without a doubt, not, I was trying to do something a certain way. I was taking some aspects of the original Godzilla, just say, I really just wanted to do my own thing with the character. I didn't really care about the fans or people who would probably want to go see this movie. This is my thing. Hate it and do it honestly is my mantra for things like this. And I think that the irreverence combined with the context of the world, along with the execution, conceptually, there's so little there for me that I can't really call it good and faithful, in my opinion.
So what would you say for the intent of the two scenes that do him well, the opening and his first
they're good. I would say they're also good in a void. Like if I was told, oh, he's attacking these ships not because they're fishing ships, there is smuggled petroleum on them, or there's actually a bomb on them, and that's why Godzilla attacked those ships, and therefore that impacts the rest of the script, I would say, yeah, that's a lot better. And then I would have to see what the rest of that film does in that sense. But because I know that he's not really attacking them because of malicious intent, he's just hungry, and he just wants to get some minya bars, I can't really give it. I can't really look at it the same. But like in a void, I could think to myself, oh wow, that's a really cool shot. It builds a lot of tension, but with the greater execution and conceptualization, doesn't work for me.
That's fair. Yeah, what I'm finding a lot is, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think we're agreeing on a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like just overall. So I'm starting to think that this is just our different tolerances.
Yeah.
Whereas I have a lower tolerance for, kind of changing things up.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of this,
I would say
this
I would say definitely
aspect
have a
in terms
lot
of actions
lower
and all that,
tolerance for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that just comes down to our tolerance.
Because I would say even across other mediums.
So I would like to actually.
Yeah. What were we gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say I'd like to touch on the design.
Oh, what do you want to touch about when it comes to the design?
Okay. So my point, I do feel the design. I admit it's very, very radical.
Yeah.
But I think it does keep the spirit of Godzilla.
1 second. I would say this is probably the best thing I can do.
The picture you chose for
it's a really good profile image for
pose?
him, but it's actually just using it's from 98 thing, Kaijuzilla 98. The profile, it's just how the asset was used in that angle, and I think it does a really good job for its size. But when it comes to the design, if there hadn't been already a hit, if Godzilla had only had one film, and then this was the next time we had seen him in years, I would say fair enough. But we had the Showa era, which Godzilla did indeed change. However, there was, even if you were to compare 98 to anything in the Showa era, they all share more in common with each other than 98 shares with any of them. And then once we move into the Heisei era, whole new set of filmmakers, 84 comes on the scene, still more faithful to 54 in the Showa films than 98 is to him or any of the Showa films. And we keep going throughout the series. And then finally we get 98, and after once we had gotten Shin, people started to say, well, look at 98. 98 was really radical, and Shin's really radical. But if you look at Shin and 98, Shin looks closer to 54 than 98 looks like to 54. If we're just making the chronological argument that because 98 is closer to 54, that would mean they'd be more faithful, which I don't think is a really good argument, but some people make it. Doesn't hold a lot of water because Shin, obviously not made by people who worked on 54 in that aspect, is still able to draw on more of what makes a Godzilla design in comparison to 98. And then that's confounded even more with 2014, where 2014, on the special features, the goal for the design team was to see what evolution would do to create Godzilla. And in that sense, they're making him a lot more naturalistic and more like an animal than 98 was, where they just wanted to make a fast Godzilla, in my opinion. And then going back out, excuse me. With both the
Well, they
stouts,
did say they just wanted an agile Godzilla.
exactly, and that's the issue, is that we could see with both Stout, Delgado, and Crash McCurry slash Ursico, because he was the one who did the sculpting for it. They're all able to design a Godzilla that's far more faithful, but still different than the 54 design, which apparently John DeBont had to talk with Toho to still get this design off the ground. But this was also back when they were far closer to when they first signed it. So Toho was a lot more tight on what they were and weren't allowing. And I would say that, again, if you give this Godzilla design, you put him in 98's film, you change up more things, there's going to be a lot less people complaining than there would be if that wasn't the case, which is what we got. And I would say even then, going to all the later Godzillas, such as Singular Point. Singular Point is obviously the newest Godzilla we've had, and he looks really like there's a lot of traits that have been brought back from 54. Fangs, posture, legs, color, all of that is done really well with Singular Point, and it's still very different from 54. Earth's probably one of the biggest departures next to Shin in recent years, but he still carries the overall silhouette and shape of the character, as well as transferring over a lot of what makes Godzilla Godzilla. It's like, for example, you have two characters. They're both victims of tragedy, and they both decide to wear black and fight crime. I'm referring to two characters, those being Batman and the Punisher. And in this hypothetical, I would say that Godzilla 54 and 98 both fill the roles of Batman and the Punisher pretty well, where there is enough wiggle room to say, yes, they are similar because of these details. But when you go in deeper, you realize they're not as similar.
So I would disagree in that aspect. I do think there definitely are a lot of changes with 98, and yeah, showing him next to all the others, he is the most radical.
I also tried to make sure that I kept the all of these are done by the same artist, so it wasn't like an issue where I was using art by different artists, so the style may differ. I wanted to make sure that like you could see here how radical it is compared to Godzilla's all done by the same person.
So one thing I did actually hear was a point of contention was the way he stood or stands.
Yeah.
And I actually talked to a friend about this because I was wondering like what he thought. He's really into like design work and stuff. Full transparency, I still have a lot to learn in that aspect.
Yeah.
And what he said that he found worked was that it was going back to the absolute basics in how 54 was derived, from different dinosaurs like the T-Rex,
Stegosaurus,
yeah, all that. And how it was going with a more modernized like version of the T-Rex. Whereas 54 was, the older T-Rex where, they thought they stood up, had the tail on the ground, all that kind of stuff. Whereas 98 was the more, we realize these things have their tails up and all that.
Yeah. I would say that does hold water to a degree. However, this is where I'm pulling the 84 card again, where within both the original Japanese and the American, I would say this is more Showa against 98 in the American, where they do mention how Godzilla's brain is more similar to that of a bird's, and they imply that dinosaurs and birds are of the same genetic lineage. So by this point, Godzilla is indeed a part or exists alongside the dinosaur renaissance. Do you know what that is?
Like where they started making discoveries of like just improving the knowledge and structure of how the dinosaurs were.
And this is also around the time where we started seeing dinosaurs with their tails up in the air. We started seeing them being more related to birds. This is where the bird theory comes in. And this is what leads up to Jurassic Park. And even by 95, we had still seen a Godzilla that had its tail dragging because he had become an iconic character. And this is another thing where with even in, do you know that in GMK they were planning on maybe
Yes, I
having
was actually
horizontal?
going to
Yeah,
bring that up. Yeah.
yeah, that was the thing that Toho did not want to do. And if you talk to people like Norman England, he probably could say more about what Kaneko was thinking than I was, because he's actually was on the sets of those films. So there is a lot that even post Dinosaur Renaissance, Godzilla's design really did not change that much to change to modern times because they realized they had an iconic character. It's like, do you play Halo at all?
No, I don't. I don't game much,
You don't
actually.
game much? Oh, okay. Okay. I'm not really able to pull too many game hypotheticals because then I'm gonna have to explain a little bit too much. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to even the more radical designs like Earth and Shin, we're still seeing a silhouette as well as a character that's far more closer to 54, which would still be the Genesis. And even at the time, Crash McCreary was the guy who had worked on the JP dinosaurs, and we could still see how very different his Godzilla is in comparison to the dinosaurs that he was around. And if someone who worked on Jurassic Park was able to make a more faithful Godzilla, it says more about Totopoulos when he wasn't the one who essentially made the Hollywood dinosaurs and then tried to make Godzilla more like a Hollywood dinosaur.
So you're saying the fact that they made it more like a dinosaur is kind of what strips his importance or specialness?
I would say that changing what makes Godzilla iconic does take away a little bit from what makes Godzilla what it is in terms of within the culture as a whole. And obviously, change is fine, but change for the sake of change, or even change for because they did it like this back then, is not to me a good enough excuse to redesign characters, because what makes something iconic is really key to character design. And a lot of artists will tell you that the silhouette is really what adds it here. Because even if, like, for example, the design I'm showing you right now, if we were to black this out and just take the silhouette, I think a lot more people would be able to say that's Godzilla in comparison to 98 if we kept them both in their neutral poses.
So are you saying that the fact he is standing like a usual dinosaur is what kills the silhouette?
I would say that that is one thing that kills a silhouette, yes. Spines don't help, although that's probably the one thing I've never had the biggest issue with is the spines. But I would say that if you do change things to the 98 design, bulk it up a little bit more, change up the head, you do have more aspects that make him more like a better Godzilla design. But there's still a lot that needs to be done there for him as a character.
So I remember hearing another thing was that by making him more like an accurate or quote unquote accurate, given that's aged in certain senses, dinosaur, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of removed how human he was, which then took away he's like a product of man.
Not necessarily. I think, well, this is an argument I've heard from certain people. It depends on where you go. I've heard the argument that, well, 98 is very faithful because not only does it combine dinosaurs, but it also combines human elements in terms of his anatomy, which is calling back to a man in a suit. I've never heard Totopoulos say anything about this. I've never heard any interviews or anything like that. But I would say that Godzilla is indeed trying to be a monster, not just like a man in a suit. I think people read too much into that aspect for me. And even if the technology were different and they didn't have to do a man in a suit, I still think that the design is what it would have been. And we do see that with both Earth, Singular Points, Shin, and then later Monsterverse. But let me stop sharing here. There's a few other things I wanted to share. Not coming up. Okay, I'm just gonna add them in later. But there are indeed a few designs that I have seen over the web that take a lot of what 98 does normally and just kind of improve upon it in a little ways. But you could say something
So,
while I kind of look for these
yeah,
things.
okay. So on the whole, like man in a suit
Mhm.
thing, the main human aspects I was referring to is kind of like the shoulders and the chest,
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm referring
arms.
to as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Because I would say they are very human-like.
Hmm.
there could be more human aspects. But I'd like to know what you meant by like the head for the silhouette. Is it the chin?
The head, no, not the chin. I would say just the head's very boxy. Like it's a really good, more reptilian design to it. Again, it does carry much more like a lizard, but comparing it to other Godzilla heads, Godzilla's always kind of had a snout. Even in the stouts, the Delgado and the Crash drawings, he still has that snout, but it's a lot more naturalistic and looks a lot more like it burgeons more on dinosaur more than it does Godzilla snout, which oftentimes looks a lot more mammalian, which I've always admitted that. But I would say they draw the happy medium a lot better than 98 does. And because they were all made before, it wasn't a matter that Staples couldn't. It's the fact that he chose not to, which is an issue for me. But I've got these all set up now. Screen share. So these are just a few drawings that people have done for just edits to the design. I'd say this one's a little too fat, but this one's probably one of the better ones where he still has the more humanoid shoulders. He stands up a little bit more.
It's still loading. I can't see it.
Oh, it's still loading. Oh, no. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, it's
now
black.
it's a little bit. Is it black? Why is it black? Why is it doing this?
You could send it in the DMs.
Yeah, I'll send you the first image in DMs then. And anyone in chat, if they can't see it, let me know as well too. Did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So I would say specifically with this one here, snout's lowered a little bit. He has a little bit more of a brow now, where the original head's a lot more boxy. Obviously, he's standing upright. The spines are actually still the same. He still has the two that jut out from the top. And for that, I would say that's a unique thing about the design that I don't mind keeping. But they have the more maple leaf structure to them, tail drags. The toes are a little bit smaller.
2019.
Yeah. And he still has his dewlap. This is a design where I'm like, it's a little bit more lizard-like, but I mean, hey, I could see this as Godzilla. I'm gonna send you another one. This is one I was talking about where I said it looked a little too fat, which is what I think a lot of people who are 98 fans say, that we want Godzilla to be fat. Like, I don't want something like this, but like if we were to colorize the first image, I would not be against it looking like this.
Now, I remember when 2014 came out, a bunch of people were saying he was too fat.
Yeah, that's such a stupid argument.
Yeah, these are the same people that love Heisei.
Heisei's a big boy. GMK's a chonkler. There's no reason for anyone to say, oh, the 2014 one's fat. It's always been a dumb argument. And then this one, the spines are really reduced here, but color's another thing I was never too adverse to. I know a lot of people are very like they're tied to the idea of Godzilla being like a charcoal gray, not being green. Although even the original designs were always very much like, we don't know whether it was a charcoal gray, it was a dark black, a reddish brown. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I find it hilarious.
Say, like, in my opinion, Godzilla's like, you can have Godzilla be different colors just within reason. That's one thing I would say, just within reason.
I find it kind of hilarious how there's no official record of what color the 54 suit was.
Exactly.
Like everyone says there are different.
Restored colors where honestly, it may be because of how they pixelate it. It looks like it's got like singes of brown and red and black all over it, which now I'm like, oh, maybe that's where that came from. But for me, Godzilla can be different colors, but within reason. Like this design here, definitely not what other Godzillas have been. Works for me. Even GTS Godzilla, he's not even really black or brown. He's a desaturated purple, and that works for him just fine.
So I wanted to talk about the third one that you sent.
Yeah, the one with the really reduced spines.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This wasn't one. I wouldn't say this is a design I'd want, but in terms of color, I like this.
Oh, the color is what you're focusing on.
Yeah, the colors are what I focused on.
Okay.
This would actually be a really good Godzilla Jr. Like if he had laid a singular egg, it looks like an example of like, to me, like ontogeny for Godzilla, in my opinion. And I think there was a few more I have saved, but I may not be able to find them. Oh, not really. Well, not necessarily technically not Godzilla, but there it is. Let me send this to you. I'm also gonna put this in the thing for everyone else to see. Come on, send. Is it not gonna send? It's gonna be a shame if it doesn't send. We'll do this on the fly, folks. We'll do it live.
Yeah, technically. I do want to just completely off topic.
Shoot.
I have enjoyed this. This has been very enlightening. I've learned some stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I honestly do agree with a lot of your points.
I'm actually very thankful. There's a lot of things that like I wasn't expecting you to agree on that a lot of 98 fans will really like hammer in on. I'm like, why are you doing this? This does not help your points.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor argumentation is
Poor. Yeah, that's the
way
issue. It's
too...
poor argumentation. I get like, I may not agree with what you're saying, but the fact is that how you're phrasing it is a lot better than some of this film's most ardent defenders. It's almost like neo-theological in terms of the fervor some of these people have. But can you see the shared screen right now or
Yes,
no?
I can.
Yeah, so these are Godzilla 98s with wings. This is from a French comic.
Oh,
This is one thing.
Beautiful.
It's really funny because apparently no one knew these were Godzillas. Like literally someone did a comic with Godzilla 98s as dragons and no one had commented on it until like years later where someone found it. It was on Reddit originally and someone posted on Twitter, which is where I found some of these screenshots, which is absolutely hilarious.
I think another thing is they're definitely slimmed down.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely some differences. Like the one right over here, his face isn't exactly the same.
Lips?
Yeah, the lips look really off. However, I would say like I think this is the same. Godzilla. These are the same ones. Yeah, Fred's with wings. They fly now? Oh no, no one got that reference. I said now.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Aye.
They fly now.
They fly now.
The Fredlings and their flying wings.
Yeah, that was the first movie to ever give me a headache in theaters.
It wasn't The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah. I'm not really into Star Wars, which is odd given the fact that it fits everything that I would like. I like sci-fi. I love good writing.
Yeah, no, then makes sense why you're not into Star
Wars.
Then again,
I also like Final Wars.
Everyone loves Final Wars. The writing makes no sense, but man, is that film entertaining. Super entertaining.
I've met some people. I've never met anyone that's just okay with Final Wars. I've always met people who either
you love it or you hate it. Yep.
I don't know
because
what it
like
is.
It's just so in your face. It's so in your face. So like either people are going to be like, no, get away from me, or they're going to be like, come to me.
Have you read interviews from the director
for Final Wars for Ryo Kitamura? Yeah, I've heard and seen things. I have used a few of them for 98 arguments because of what he said and how that works legally. Not a full-on lawyer, but I know a little way around my legal cases. But Kitamura is interesting to say the least. But
yeah, that's something.
I would love to have seen Kitamura and Bono just talk with each other, just for them to have a podcast together talking about what they would do with Godzilla.
That would have been an event.
Exactly.
The one thing that stood out to me was that he hated the previous Millennium films, and he said Godzilla looked fake and that he would make him look real. Okay,
he didn't bring down the most slimmed down Godzilla that, like, if there's one thing that slimming down Godzilla did, it was made him look a lot more like a man in a suit. That's one thing.
And then also
Godzilla, goalie Godzilla, he did not direct his action scenes yet.
Yeah, he didn't direct. What in the world? He's an interesting guy.
He's an interesting man who loves his American movies. I totally understand the Matrix, guys. I watched Godzilla Final Wars.
That is something the fans would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why I hate Planet Eaters, because it tries to be a nihilistic film and then does not understand the philosophy of nihilism at all, or death cults, or
I
religiosity.
oddly like Planet Eater. I don't know why.
It's because it's the least egregious out of all of those films, as
Probably
well as
why.
okay,
Yeah.
ready? I watched that film just so I could skip to the end so I can hear the end credits song. That is why I watched that film.
I don't even remember the end credits song.
Live and Die is probably the best out of all those ending songs, in my opinion.
I
There's actually
just
gravity
remember.
to his vocals.
I remember tolerating Planet Eater. Still pretty bad. I almost fell asleep to City on Edge of Battle. I don't fall asleep to movies, so
When
that's
the
saying a lot.
Captain Ahab Moby Dick references got too strong, and then they didn't understand how logic worked, and then they tried to make their logical villains be the most emotional people without really making that apparent to the audience. The Bill Saluto did nothing wrong, by the way. We should all make that clear.
I actually kind of, on a philosophical level, even though the philosophy was not well executed at all,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with certain parts of them, but like the way it's played off.
Exactly. Like this, it literally, those films to me, I would say they're worse than a like emotionless Showa film, because at least the Showa films aren't trying to be pretentious about their philosophy or lack thereof. Like the director for the anime films feels like he actually, no, not even fully studied. He did philosophy 101 and then dropped out halfway through the ad drop for that class ended. He was like, I've learned everything I need to know. I'm gonna go make this film now.
Let's make some Godzilla movies. Teach
Let's
some
make some
angsty
Godzilla movies.
teens about life.
But my life, but my environment.
So, for the Fred thing, just
Yes, the Fredlings.
Yeah, the Fred.
I'm gonna spam your Discord now with Fredling memes.
Do it, man. I don't think they'd be opposed.
Good.
I think they'd like it.
Good. It's gonna be like that scene with Peter. They're gonna be like, they respected me for it. King of the Bradens.
Yeah, So yeah, I definitely do agree with a lot of your points, and I think, I don't want to come off as like someone who doesn't admit defeat, but I feel that for what we are arguing, it might come down to perspective and how much you're able to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Which, side note, I think this is the only discussion I've had on like in-depth discussion I had on faithfulness, and this is in no way your fault at all.
Mm-hmm.
I hate these discussions because there's so much wiggle room.
Yeah, that's the only, with design. I would like art is, there's definitely an objective quality to art, but with faithfulness, the thing is that like, because the overwhelming feeling that art is subjective, it's also muddied how faithfulness can be portrayed. So
Yeah,
there's always a little bit of wiggle room around. Well, I wasn't trying to be faithful. This was a reimagining. Oh, this is a different timeline.
And there's artistic intent and all that. And
yes, exactly.
It's a huge mess.
I would say always for me, when it comes to anything I'm thinking, when it comes to faithfulness, I want to know what the director's thinking, because it will paint the intent of whatever he's doing on the page or the screen or the game for me. And then I will see see the execution compared to other examples of execution, and see where the minutia is so very close or so far off, and then compare it to everything else within the franchise. Like, I would say it's easy to do it for Godzilla because we have movies, we have books, and a lot of those are pretty accessible thanks to a lot of sites like Wikizilla, Toho Kingdom, stuff like that. But then, like, if I was to do that for Spider-Man or Batman, I would have to probably write a master's thesis on it, because there's so much material at that point. And I would say because Japan's a lot more collectivist, you're able to see a lot more like similarity in terms of thoughts and what underpins design decisions there in comparison to America, where I really have to dig up on like what a director or a writer is thinking in every situation there, because there's going to be a lot more difference of thought there.
All I can say is yeah, because that was a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like it's literally something that would demand like an EFAP level of discussion in terms of breaking down faithfulness. I know they're not too big on like something being faithful. It's mostly about the execution for them. However, I would also say that like if I would say without a doubt it if you discount something being faithful, or you say it doesn't really matter too much, it encourages dishonest marketing, which is why a lot of people, for example, if we're going to tie back to Godzilla, the reason why a lot of people were disappointed by City on the Edge of Battle is because a lot of pundits were saying, oh, Mecha Godzilla is going to appear, and I said, fight Godzilla.
Yeah, that was messed up.
And I think it's I don't think a lot of people are bad faith about this, but I think a lot of people just are excusing people for lying at that point. It's like, just say, oh yeah, Mecha Godzilla will play a role in this. There is enough where you could say we don't really know what role he's playing, but saying he fights Godzilla elicits an idea with people. And this permeates into anything, any discussion where everyone needs to be on the same point with language, to where we can therefore make the inferences we need to come to conclusions. And I think a lot of people, especially 98 fans, from my experience discussing the topic, like to dance around these terms and then act as though, oh, you just hate the film because of this, this, and this. Same thing with Star Wars fans or any other fan of a black sheep piece of media for a franchise. And that just doesn't help discussion. It doesn't help people who like that piece of media. It just makes you look like someone who's not willing to budge. Not you specifically. You've done a really good job in terms of like opening up about like how you feel about certain things, which is good. But for other people, it's not as good.
Yeah, for me personally, I think the thing that draws me to 98 is partially the black sheep aspect, which is kind of ironic given, I said I don't really care about faithfulness. I care about execution, and 98's execution is horrid. But I think it's more of, just for me personally, this is no way defensive of him. I'm not trying to excuse any of his numerous flaws. I think I just see a lot of what could be and what was done, namely the first two scenes. And I feel that a lot of fans overlook those singular aspects instead of like the whole thing. Which
I would say that yes, I agree with that entirely. Like, I've once never, I've criticized them in the greater context of their film, but to discount them as a whole and say no, there's nothing good about this, I think is wrong. It's reductive. It doesn't tell anyone what they did wrong and what they did right. That doesn't encourage better creation of art. It just tells people, oh, you did something bad, and leaves no room for improvement. That's why constructive versus reductive criticism is also important. And that's why I'm willing to say that, yeah, without a doubt, the first act does a really good job on its own for building up the character. But then once you understand the context behind those things, it doesn't work as well.
All because Emmerich wanted his whatever he wanted.
He wanted his anthropomorphic lizard with a vajayjay that shoots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was about to see that. All your arguments are invalid. He has a vagina. 10 out of 10.
Exactly. I've heard people try to say that Godzilla is technically intersex or trans. Technically, like I've heard these arguments before, and I'm like, I also remember that they had a video of Dean
tell
Devlin.
Me you're joking.
No, I'm not. Either later tonight or tomorrow, I will send you in DMs these arguments. I'm not messing with you. I hope I built enough good faith to let you know that I'm being 100% serious.
Oh yeah, you are. And also I know this is like such a tiny thing. It is so nice to meet someone else who realizes that art is objective. Or at least objective aspects.
So, ready? Like, I wasn't sure how I was going to approach this debate at first. I wasn't sure if you can be like, well, art's subjective. I was literally, so the meta I've used that I really haven't had to pull yet, because I've always told people, you don't want to do this. Don't make me pull this argument. So If art is subjective, then there's nothing wrong with saying Triumph of the Will is a good film. I don't think anyone wants to make that argument, but if you are saying that art
I've
is
actually
subjective,
never
then
heard of
Triumph of the Will
that.
is a good film.
What
You
is
don't know
that?
what Triumph of the Will? You don't know what Triumph of the Will is?
No.
It's a film about the KKK.
I'm kind of scared. No.
Yeah.
What
So it was like one of the first films that came out in
Oh.
America. So if art is subjective, then yes, there is no, you cannot defend and say that Triumph of the Will is a bad film because of these aspects. It's art, so therefore art is subjective, so therefore Triumph of the Will is a good film. You can't defend or say that, yeah, no, that film is garbage straight up if art is subjective. But if you say art is objective, say, no, this is bad because of a number of reasons, both ethical, moral, outside of like the film being old, so there's gonna be a lot of technical errors there. There is so much wrong with this film, it can only be classed as objectively bad.
Something that I like to use and to like, highlight objectivity is sentence structure, because sentences are like a form of communication. Film is technically a form of communication, and there is objective like formation to a sentence. There are objectively better sentences than other sentences, and just because like one is understandable compared to the other, like he store go to, okay, he went to the store, you could just say he went to the store. That's an objectively better sentence. At least that's the example I use. I also use like a building, structural integrity, all that kind of stuff.
Like you can have very grammatically you can have grammatically correct but extremely verbose sentences that do not get the point across as well. So for example, let's say I approached the bin and fetched H2O. That is a good sentence, but just saying I went to the sink to get water is an objectively better sentence because it gets across what you're saying without being verbose or pedantic about your structure.
That phrasing reminds me of all like those stereotypical nerds, and or even I don't know if you've seen the Marvel Spider-Man show that came
Which
after
one?
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh no, I did not see. I saw that, it looked like trash, and I was like, nope, I ain't
Oh
touching that.
boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's something.
Don't you show it to me, I swear.
They changed Peter into like this, just one of those like, yeah,
Did he
nerds.
become the Jimmy Neutron sodium chloride meme?
Yes, like legitimately.
I hate you for the fact that you brought that up.
Just
I
random.
hate the fact that that's what that is.
He just throws out random like science stuff, and it's like, okay, you're just trying to make him sound smart. Why are you doing this?
That's disgusting. That's a travesty.
Yeah. Media these days.
Absolute garbage.
How often do you do these streams?
Not very often. I'm working on a right now I am working on a video about why King Kong is more popular than Godzilla. It's going to turn some heads. It's going to go over some
pretty epic.
It's going to go into psychological, mythological, and sociological precedents for why a character like Kong is more loved naturally than Godzilla. I have another video about the giant monster monomyth and relating that to seeing how you can relate what's it called? Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces, and apply that to giant monster stories and create and see if you can create a monomyth around these stories and what can be done to make them better so people can improve as writers. And then I have a full Godzilla 98 rewrite that I'm going to be doing, which is actually going to be getting a lot of things changed to it that I'm going to be publishing as an actual indie novel.
That sounds cool.
Thank you.
Does he keep the vagina?
No, he does not. Nope. There will be a Madison Square Garden sequence, but it is completely changed. And there's no more Fredlings.
No, not that. Actually,
the Fredlings are a red herring, but there are smaller monsters that do contend with humans.
The final shot of like Fred Jr.
Yeah, there's no Fred Jr. at the end either.
What is that movie? What is it?
It's a travesty on man.
It's I'd also say that about other Godzilla films. I don't know if you found this, but my least favorite is it my least? You know what? At this point, yeah, it's my least favorite film of all time. Godzilla Raids Again. Despise
It's
that movie.
for me. It's so inoffensive as a film, and based on like what they did to make that film, I'm like, it's what are you? You're it's like soul versus soulless, but I'm like, you're so inoffensive. There's so little I can criticize for you, except for the sped up fight. That's still bad. I don't care. Anyone who tries to tell me, oh, it shows the ferocity of the animals. No, that's still a mistake.
Yeah,
You may like that, but that is still a mistake.
Super Ryan just liked it. It's like okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's another thing is the portrayal of kaiju nailing that scale,
Mm-hmm.
and like fans they don't poop and care. Like look at GVK and King of the Monsters. They're just like, oh, big monster.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would say one thing that 2014 does better than the other films is that it does indeed provide a sense of scale. It
It's
definitely does
incredible.
cock teasing me way too much, and now I have gigantic blue balls every time I watch that film. And even when I had to watch the film in preparation for this discussion, my balls were excessively indigo.
I don't know if you picked this up, but 2014 is actually my favorite film
I
of
know
all
it is.
time. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So like really the meta for this discussion was I wasn't sure if you were going to be extremely hostile or extremely forthcoming, but like I did a lot more research on 2014 and I was really going to hammer in the 2014 aspects a lot more. I was like, if I need to calm them down, we can discuss 2014, how good that is, how that's a better film. Trust. How much political debates do you watch or listen to? Or you do not at all?
In the past, a decent amount, but they got overwhelming.
That a lot of like for debate skills as well as like how I handle any kind of debate, it comes from that realm of experience and specifically like the YouTube Twitch side of it. So like I was about to go like Destiny level debate bro tactics for this,
So
but
I
thankfully it did not.
actually I did some did some digging on you as well. Went through your Twitter.
Cards on
Uh,
the table.
yeah, yeah. Went through some of your YouTube. Um, and I'm like, wait. Well, okay. First off, the fact you wanted to discuss is a great thing because normally Godzilla fans are just like, we or no, you know. And then I looked at it and I'm like, this man has good argumentation. Like,
You're like, oh no.
yeah. I will. It was more like, I'm good. Am I gonna have a civil discussion with a fellow Godzilla fan?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Okay, so like when I started my channel, I went to bat for the community so much. And I was like, yo, not everyone's bad. The biggest argumentation I made around that argument was there's no way you could say an entire community is toxic because you could not throughout your entire lifetime have met even a third or a fourth of the entire community. But like for years, I'm just like, I went to bat for these people. I fought for you. I died for you.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I was like, there's a lot of tactics I can pull here. I don't want to go too hard. I don't want to go too soft. Just have good argumentation.
Well, I hope I succeeded in that aspect. I do feel I stumbled a bit. As I've said, this is not my usual type of discussion. I'm more for just films and their execution.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh no, you did a good job, and like I was expecting like a lot more of like, are you trying to set me up? No? You're being. I was about to be like, oh, slow down there, buddy, and like I had roast planned, but I was like, okay, no, he's actually cordial. This is just not what he does. We're good here.
I'm glad
And I was like, oh, wait, this is actually going well. I don't have to tell him I need to go to the bathroom and then just go down to the cellar and get some alcohol and drink while I do this. So
Have you had to do that?
sometimes I drink during streams or if I'm drinking during discussion on like Twitter or something, yeah.
Poor man. Well, I'm sure you've had to deal with Godzilla fans.
I've dealt with 98
yeah.
fans of so like there's one really infamous 98 fan apparently from what I've heard. He blocked me recently and he has one of his 98 arguments was that 98 and 54 are the same because 54 didn't have any nuclear allegory to it. Godzilla was never a nuclear allegory.
What? What?
I hope. Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. And trust me, you are the first person who's defended 98, who's come onto the stream for like, I've been like, hey, all right, come debate me, and they're like, no, I'm not gonna debate you. You're just a hater of 98. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you duck then. And I'm like, come on, just take the bait, get on for the discussion, And I'm like, and like, I was also expecting, I was like, once the debate's over, and if he just like dips, I'm gonna bring other people onto the stream just to talk.
On discussion.
But then I'm like, oh, now what am I gonna name the thing? It's not gonna be Angry 98 fan comes to discuss faithfulness. Like I was gonna have it be like one of those Destiny style titles to it. But then I'm like, oh man, this is a good discussion. Oh well. There goes all the hostility that was built into it. It's like that took the wind out of my sails. I'm like, I'm looking for a fight, but like, this is good. I like this.
I'm just apparently I was a lot of things in your head.
When we've had like decades of 98 argumentation, you start to like there's an impression you get off people, and you're like, because you either
definitely I
get the
that.
passive 98 fan, or you get the smug 98 fan. And because obviously you know that you would come to my attention because someone else had tweeted to me, and the wording, I'm like, I could smell the smug, and I'm like, okay, ready, let's go. And then I'm like, oh, okay, because literally I was like, oh, let me look through his channel, and I had seen the stream, and I was like, okay, for this debate, I mean, I think I sat through that thing 4 times at 2 times speed.
Wait, like, you rewatched the stream 4 times?
Yeah, because here's the thing, I wasn't sure if it was just gonna be if you were just gonna be you, or you were gonna be like, hey, so some of my friends also want to discuss it because they agree with me, and I was like, I don't mind being dogpiled or whatnot, so I was like, I can go in. And then that's why I'd also said earlier, if you want to bring friends on, I'm cool with that. And it was half psych tactic, half I'm so confident in my argumentation that if you want to bring friends on to help you and to make this a dogpile session, I can make that work. But then I was like, oh, okay, this is how it is. He's pretty confident. I'm like, he's pretty confident. I'm like, okay, so he seems pretty good. I see him narrow down my arguments. You have, this was like, I had my Rocky debate training montage for this entire thing. Like in between working on the 98 rewrite as well as plotting out for the revised book. I was preparing for this day in and day out. I've lost so much sleep too. I was like, I can work on this later. Let me work on this some more.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, trust me, it was really good, because I'm like, this was good because a lot of it came in as it was a lot more better and cordial discussion. Like literally the Word document that I had some of those that I took my premise off of, as well as a lot of quotes from Emmerich and Devlin, as well as the top list. A lot of that had that was 5 pages. I was like, this is a little small. I think I can add more. Then I was like, oh wait, I still have work to go to. Oh, I still have martial arts to do. And but sleep.
Oh boy.
And then I was like, I had that. That thing got up to 10 pages, and I was like, nah, this isn't good argumentation. I can do better than that. Well, this kind of contradicts my other arguments. I need to make sure my wording's better here. And I was like, I got what I got. I'm ready.
Dude, that's why I've slowed down on the writing of scripts, is because I'm like, you know what? I feel like talking about this aspect, this thing, and then I'm like, okay, I'll do like 2 pages, and then it just becomes this long thing, and it's like, man, where'd the time go?
Yeah, no, for me, it's literally just like, so I don't have enough time in the world, but like, I love working on stuff. Oh no, like tangents. That's why I love EFAP. It's just they go on tangents and they're able to expand out their tangents until they come to their logical conclusion, and then they can circle back and keep talking.
Yeah, I love that too. Yeah. I love discussion. Like just getting different viewpoints, getting just strengthening argumentation. I love it. Like that's
as well as just like being like a good faith about it. Because honestly, I love some of their more controversial, like not controversial, the more combative streams where they bring people on, because at this point their argumentation is pretty strong, and then if you know what someone's thinking or how they're trying to obfuscate something, hearing someone respond in a certain way, you're able to know what they're trying to get around, and there you can hone in on something that's important for an argument. And I also
yeah.
think that doing it in a video format's a lot better, because then you're not trying to like respond, wait for a response, respond, wait for a response, respond, and then like it's maybe been like an hour since they've responded. Then you're like, oh, what was my point again? Then you have to read back up through a point. That's why like video discussion works even better than like written discussion. Because like I bet like if you did your like workup on me, you've probably seen like the numerous like 98
Yeah, I
threads
would
that I
much
have.
rather.
Because like I can
I
expand
saw a
things a lot
few,
more than
but
just
yeah, I'd rather have a debate.
that is just verbal.
Oh, just I'd rather have a debate. Oh, yeah, verbal over call rather
Exactly,
than
yeah.
writing. Like, yeah,
Yeah, because there's a lot more you have
it's
to infer
nicer.
there. Yeah.
What? Yeah,
But
going back to the
Mhm.
you watched this stream. What impression did I give off from the stream?
I was well, first I was getting I think the first thing I was gonna say was like, before we continue, I have a question. So do you like Godzilla like actually or unironically? That was like probably my first thing I was gonna say, because I was like, that was like my first impression, because I was like, here's like the whole meta of the argumentation was gonna change depending on that answer, because then like a lot of like how I would word things would change, and I was like, that will very much be the basis on how this works. But if he actually likes it unironically, then we can go from there. We'll see how if he's bad faith or he's hostile or not. See what goes from there. But if he's being ironic and he just thinks like there's nothing good that actually comes from the series, then I could just turn this into a gigantic roast stream and just enjoy myself. Probably get some good memes. Pepe laugh for a bit, but before you say something, real quick,
I'm sure you've. Mm-hmm.
Takaiju, where is my commissions?
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Dakota, where's my commissions? I swear to God, it's been weeks.
You know how I said I was talking? You know how I was talking to a friend about 98's design?
Was it him?
It's Dakota, yeah.
What? What?
Dakota likes Fred.
You didn't tell me any of this.
Dakota
I trusted you. I've given you money.
Yeah,
Don't you say I'm sorry.
Dakota, don't apologize. Love Fred.
Don't apologize. Apologizing is weakness.
Give it that too.
Never apologize. Never give ground.
Yeah. I'm sure you figured this out by now, but I do love Godzilla. Like,
yeah, no, like I was. This may be bad on me. A lot of times I'm like, I am very suspicious of what they're thinking before I meet someone. But going through this, I could tell without a doubt that you actually do like the series. So, like, any misgivings, I'm like,
That's what I was gonna say though. Is I love the character, favorite character like ever. But the series, I'm like, just the franchise in general, I'm not, as stupid as it sounds, I'm not really a fan of. I know you saw on the stream, I hate most of the movies.
Yeah, that was probably why I was like, okay, this is gonna go really hard. Like, honestly, depending on how antagonistic you were gonna be, I was gonna go in deep and be like just objectively prove why some of the movies you hate were just better than 98. I was gonna be like,
oh, definitely, yeah. A lot of them that I don't like are better than, like, that's not a high bar. 98 is a very very low bar. Yeah, but they're not my kind of movies. I don't
Hmm.
know what it is. And I would actually say that objectively most of them are awful or just bad.
I would say
I
objectively they are for I would say objectively compared to American films, there's a lot of things wrong with them. I would say based on what they can do, what they're given, like in terms of capital and what they've done, they're average, very average, some below average, but average at best for like most things. And I would say compared to even other monster movies, they're better than a lot of like other monster movies. But that may be a bias there for me. I would love for someone to pick that apart and be like, "Yes, you're just a biased little bitch, aren't you?" And they're like,
you know what? In the future, if you're down to join my friends and I, like just looking at the Godzilla series as a whole, like objectively, maybe
mm,
rewatching them, if you'd be up for that.
"No, please, I'd be down." Um,
Also, you know the magical Filmento.
oh God, don't get me started.
Yeah, um, yeah. Oh boy, pseudo intellectualism everywhere. Um, so my friends and I don't know if this was picked up. Well, I did say it in the stream. I did get like a following and kind of a name through like just criticizing King of the Monsters. Like that's how I
Mhm.
got a fan base.
Yeah,
Um,
no, like I think a lot of my early fan base comes from criticizing 98. I would say a lot of friends like have come out of that. So I'm like, I'm probably the 98 hater guy on the internet.
ironically, I do like King of the Monsters. I don't know what it is, but I can't stop enjoying that movie.
I think, well, are you old enough to drink?
uh, I I'm not gonna reveal. Yeah, I'll type my put my age in DMs,
Okay.
but
Okay. Because I was gonna say in that case, I would one of these days just get drunk and then tell you why King of the Monsters is a thematic masterpiece. And you're so enamored. You just start agreeing with me. I record that and then I make a hit piece on it and say you've been lying your entire time. And the fact is that you've been doing this all for clout. I would,
you know,
I would, I
I
would so
did
do it.
trick part of my server into thinking that like I was too hard on King of the Monsters and that there were things to like appreciate
They
about the
fell for
movie.
it.
Well, there are like a few things like soundtracks good, but like yeah, and a good part of them fell for it. I'm like, guys, come on.
I would say it was more successful than an Israeli psyop, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, but going back to the film mentor thing. So yeah, my friends and I also that's how we like met each other was like through like, hey, King of the Monsters is bad. Oh, King of the Monsters is bad. Yeah. Uh, so many like stands of the movie have sent us this one video from Filmento calling it film perfection. So yeah, we still need to figure out when, but we're gonna get together and react to that video, kind of like EFAP style,
Mm-hmm.
and just try to break it down.
Oh, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, you be up for joining?
I'd be up for joining.
We're gonna rip into Filmento.
But I could say this. I used to really like Filmento.
Same, yeah.
Was I think primarily because did you ever see Underwater?
I did not, but I've heard a lot about it from EFAP. I haven't seen their coverage yet, but they keep talking about it and other stuff.
So he said Filmento said the film was bad, and I also think it's a bad film. Outside of just kind of being an alien ripoff, which Filmento does talk about, it also is like Cthulhu is in the movie, but like it's nothing like actual Cthulhu. And as a big Lovecraft fan, I'm like, this is a really bad Lovecraft adaptation. And like, if we're talking about if not, we could say 98 is like somewhat faithful to Godzilla. I could be like, maybe sure. And if you say like compared to Underwater's Cthulhu, I'd be like, yes, 98 is almost a perfect rendition of Godzilla compared to Underwater's Cthulhu because of how badly that film butchers that character. But yeah, no, Memento is an interesting case for me.
This is completely off topic, but does my friend ask me this probably how long? It's been over an hour. He he wants to know, and he asks me this whenever I talk to someone. What do you think of the Mutos?
From a design or from the character?
Just in general.
I don't
Like-
like the design. I think that was actually designs they done originally that would have fit better. I think they're like just they don't work for me. I've never really liked them at all. I never liked them.
Outside of design?
Outside of design, outside of character too. I would have rather them just have been one Muto instead of two Mutos. And like just from a world building aspect, their evolutionary cycle doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Well, are you talking about what King of the Monsters added, or just 2014?
All of it in general, like all of it in general. So like the fact that since the male is so much smaller than the female, how did the U.S. military and the people guarding that nuclear reservoir site, the where they kept all their defunct nuclear stuff, how did no one know that the female was like taking all that energy, or like how no one realized that like some of these nukes and stuff aren't radioactive anymore because something's feeding on the radiation. The fact that they're mammals doesn't make sense to me. Like I can understand like, oh, make an animal like another animal, that makes sense. But then you're looking at I can understand Godzilla to a point, a tetrapod with spines that's reptilian. That's seen in nature, but a vertebrate that's no longer a tetrapod does not make sense to me. And earlier concept art of the Mutos are a lot more reptilian looking, and they just clash better with Godzilla on a visual aspect. And they looked overall better in earlier concepts. And I don't know, like I would have rather have seen the other monster that was in the San Diego trailer originally, or the other reptilian monster that would have fought him on Alcatraz. That monster looked a lot more interesting. Yeah, Rock Moodle.
I love Rock Moodle.
Like
he's awesome.
if Gareth Edwards had taken over the MonsterVerse and we never got Darty, we never got what's it called?
Wingard.
Why am I Wingard? Thank you. I was blanking on that man's name. If those two had never made anything, if they had never made their films and Gareth was in charge of the entire series, I would have rather him helmed monsters based more on Rock Noodle's design, where they're not exactly from nature, but they look at least like animals that could appear on Earth. The Mutos just look like aliens to me, and they're not aliens. They're naturally occurring animals. And I'm like, that doesn't look right, in my opinion.
What I think is hilarious is that the Mutos look more alien than Ghidorah.
Yeah, they literally do. And then Muto Prime has got that weird Megatron looking face. And then the second Muto, which we're not sure if that's like a growing Muto Prime or a Muto that stopped at like the Muto is just yeah. I think people call her Barb or something now.
Yeah, Barb. The has mating scars or something. Like, just stop at 30. Just stop it. But yeah, I love 2014 to death, but that script and I think a big part of what does drag it down is it claims to be so based in nature, yet it just has things that don't make sense by that logic. Like first thing that pops into my mind is Godzilla roaring at the Femmuto. He's supposed to be the predator. Why are you roaring at your prey? Like, it's a cool scene.
You could, without a doubt,
by the movie's internal logic, it doesn't.
Ready? I can explain it in one simple line of dialogue. So, Serizawa and Stens are watching the fight go down in some military facility. Either he or Graham asks Serizawa why they're roaring at each other. You could simply make the argument that their roars are giving enough infrasound where they're slightly stunning each other, allowing one to either slip in. And that is a simple way to explain why monsters are just always roaring at each other. It's a simple, naturalistic way to describe that.
That would actually be really cool. And they would also describe why they just watch the other roar instead of attacking.
Yeah, there's a little bit of stunning, as well as even though they're stunned, their mind is still working to a point where they're able to calculate what they want to do next to each other.
And that also would make sense because in the side channels of the Ultimate Roar, there's this weird like droning, and it's just in those channels. I don't know how to describe it because it's like like I don't know what it is, but it's interesting.
No, I know exactly what you mean. But like that's an easy and simple way to do it.
Yeah.
Just explain like most things that people don't understand, like just have people go through your testimonies, be like, what doesn't make sense to you? Instead of saying, oh, I love this film. It was good. I did not like this film. It is bad. And then you do the minion on the ground squabble thing.
Yeah, that's just a modern audiences these days. It's either I like it, so it's great, or I don't like it, so it's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
It's what happened to just talking and breaking things down.
I think that all changed when the Orange Man Nation attacked. I don't know. That's what everyone tells me on Twitter these days.
Oh yes, Twitter.
The realm of intellectual discussion, mind you.
Of course, yeah.
I know, right? Yeah.
Pure facts.
Nothing but facts, logic, and rational thinking. And perfectly logical responses to basic things.
King of the Monsters is visually great. No. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What a fan base to be a part
of. That was another thing I was gonna say. Oh boy, are you ready for this? Do you have a point I was gonna bring against you?
What?
So, I know a lot of people, like sometimes if you go really deep on part of the series they don't like, people will be like, well, the fan base is super toxic. So then I was literally about to say, I was gonna be like, so you think the fandom's toxic? And if you were like, yes, I think the fandom's really toxic, then I was gonna be like, are you sure that like this community is toxic, if not one of the most toxic fan bases ever? And if you were gonna be like, yeah, there's no worse toxic, I was gonna bring up like, okay, so do you know what creepypasta is?
Yes.
So I was gonna be like, so do you think the creepypasta fandom is worse or better than the Godzilla community? And if you had said, yeah, I think the Godzilla community is more toxic, then I was gonna be like, well, I don't think anyone has shivved people in the Godzilla community over a difference of opinion. I was gonna bring that up, and I've brought it up before to other people who always say the community is super toxic, and usually it gets people to shut up or reconsider like how they view toxicity in a lot of ways. But I there was so many examples I was going to be bringing up.
I am of the belief, and I know I'm sure like there's plenty of people that might just call me pretentious or like on a high horse or whatever, but I honestly believe the fan base isn't super toxic. It's just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I would say it's even more than that. There's a mixture of stupid, pretentious, smug, and then there's no room for people to legitimately say, yes, this is good, let's work on this. Because honestly, like for example, like obviously I do a lot of like character design creation on my Instagram, and I think like a lot of people say they want to get into character creation, and then they'll send me something and it's like a Godzilla OC, and that's a big meme, is that like everyone just does like Godzilla OC, do not steal.
Wait, did you see my Godzilla meme?
Yes, OC? I did. I realized how I was like, there's no way he's being serious. Either he is this smug or it's a bit. And I was like, I refuse to think he's this smug. It's got to be a bit. And I've encountered people who are this smug, so I was like, don't take the bait. It's too much of a low blow. I can't do it. Either it's gonna be a bit and I'm gonna look real stupid, or he's actually this bad, and then I can go in on it. But right now, just don't touch it.
Why would wait, let's see, what did I name him? Hyper Destoroya Zilla World Destroyer, God of Alchemy Death be a bit?
That's why because I've known people who make really outlandish names for some of their creations, but usually they're kids. So I was like, you know what? You're like 13, not you specifically, but like the kids who make these ideas. And I'm like, you're 13. That's fine. You're still learning. But the more you develop, just realize that these aren't really good names. Just think about that. Just like as you grow and evolve as an artist. But I was like, this is a bit. How old is he? I don't know. Because obviously a lot of fandom is kids. So I'm like, Am I really having to deal with a kid who really thinks this is like, is he being smug? I don't know. How do I play this meta?
It's sad that the things have gotten so bad that satire is believable now.
Don't get me started. Every day I wake up, either online or in the real world, I'm like, this used to be satire years ago. Am I living in the Matrix? Is this irony?
Have you seen the Babylon Bee?
Yes.
I love the Babylon Bee. They some of their articles become
Babylon
reality.
Bee or The Onion.
Yeah, the Onion as well. It's like what is happening?
I thought, no, one time there was something that came up in the news and I was like, this has got to be an Onion article. It was from The Guardian. I thought someone had like done something to the link to make it look like it said it was from The Guardian. Then I'm like, oh, it's actually from The Guardian. Oh no. Why?
What reality are we living in?
We are living in the actual clown world.
Yeah.
The Matrix is real. It's just not mechanical. We just live in it every single day.
I wish for a day where the fans and the filmmakers like actually respect the kaiju genre, because I love the genre because I just love the potential it has.
Oh yeah, no. This is why like I don't really do too much Godzilla stuff unless it's like really film SAE. But like my main goal is that I want to show like what people do in the community so they can elevate themselves, and that can be the main voice for the genre. That's why I want to do it my stuff, and I think there's a lot of potential there that a lot of people don't see. And like I mean I've been also working on another video, which is like books to read to make better kaiju stories that are like none of them are kaiju related at all, as well as like subjects to study so that people can take it seriously and that they're not clinging to mediocrity. Like I love a lot of the Godzilla films, but just because I like them does not mean I don't think a lot of them can be better. And a lot of people think that if they like something, it needs to also be good because that says something about them as a person.
Yeah,
But
that I've never understood.
it's very much like this would devolve into a political stream because of how much that has to do with like the outside world, and that's why I've always kind of been peeved by the it's just a film, it's just a game argument,
you know what,
it ignores a lot of a lot of things that impact us, and why people hold so much to these like fandoms is because of everything else that goes around, and people just want to escape and make things good.
100% agree. Like
Thank you.
I honestly believe it feeds into each other. Everything feeds into each other. And yeah, film can be a reflection of the culture. Like we're getting lazy. Everything is just going down. Standards are going down. Like it's a problem. And sure, film isn't as like influential as other aspects of culture, but it's a start. And if a change can be made there, then a change can be made in other places. And it
as well
saddens
as like,
me that
I would also say that like escapism can still be escapism, like just make good escapism, or you can tell a message. Your film can be political, but like tell it in a subtle way, or like humanize what you're doing and don't come off as a giant smug ideologue.
No, we gotta have Zack Snyder's epic 4x3 in like almost black and white color grade. No, put in black and white.
That is literal like as bad as the Snyder cut is. The meme that it actually happened will forever be one of those like crowning achievements in my mind. I'm like, they actually got it made. The madmen, the absolute insane madmen.
I am all for creative vision. Honestly, I'm happy for Zack Snyder. Good for him. But that does not excuse anything from criticism. It was their vision. It was just the vision. Like, okay, your vision's bad.
Or the fact that like people some people defended Justice League, like the one that actually came out first, because of the director's politics, and when people found out he like did things or was alleged to have done stuff, those same people just turned on him like a dime. objectivity or like talking about like the actual film itself just went out the window. It's like, no, he's a bad man.
Yeah,
We can't talk about the film.
Bad men bad, so film bad. It's like, no, art from artist.
Or like people, for example, like, do you ever watch Jeepers Creepers?
No.
Apparently the director, I forget what it is off the top of my head that he did. It was pretty bad from what I've heard, but like, despite that, there's good in those films, and I can't in good conscience or good faith say no, those are bad films, and my reasoning would then be, oh, because of the director. Like that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, it's unfair to the work itself. I remember, I don't remember when or where or who this was, but I remember an interaction I once had where someone was like, King of the Monsters is better than 2014 because Doherty had a vision. And I'm like, Gareth had a vision too.
Everyone has a vision for a film. Doesn't mean the film is good.
But their response was, well, Doherty's vision was better. It's like, okay.
I mean, what's it called? Yeah, Ridley Scott had a vision for Prometheus and Covenant. Doesn't mean those films are good. Like,
the number one example is Tommy Wiseau had a vision.
Yeah, Tommy Wiseau had a vision.
He had a grand vision, and we got a work of art.
If I ever have to hear someone make that argument to me in a like if I have to address it in a video, I'm just gonna say like they had and just put vision for Marvel on there on the screen. They had a vision. They just have a pocket vision for everyone. They had a vision.
They had a vision. Vision good, therefore thing not bad.
Troll Hunter had a vision.
Oh, yeah.
Simple as. Hey, Godzilla versus Hedorah. I know you don't like it, but it had a vision. Gamera, the super monster, that had a vision right there.
It had a vision. It definitely had a vision.
Yeah, it had vision, all right.
Oh boy.
Oh, what's another one? Custer's Revenge. Custer's Revenge had a vision. Whatever. If you don't know what that is, I will send you a link to what that is. One second. And for anyone who knows, they're probably just saying, "Oh my god, why Zim?"
I'm scared.
You should be.
I definitely want to start doing more stuff like this, like streams, and probably. I promise I'm not stealing your thing. I was thinking of this before we had any interaction. I did want to have like live debates with people who took certain stances. Like I'm sure there's people out there who would love.
I would love to do that. The issue is that people who have these visions, they're like, I don't want to debate you.
Yeah,
like,
then that's
like,
it's like, yeah, because
what's it called?
I'd love to talk to
Custer's Revenge had a vision. Just remember that. Just remember Custer's Revenge had a vision.
Oh, that's a vision, all right.
That's a vision, all right.
Oh. But
I've broken this man.
I would love to talk to like a King of the Monsters stan or a GVK stan, or you know what, even a 2014 stan. I'd love to go against one.
No, like the fact is that like I could probably without a doubt, if you really want to, I could see if I could find some people who are a little bit more on the logical side of 2014 or King of the Monsters and see if I could get them on to help to like get you in contact with them for streams. I would actually do that if you were down for more debates with people. I would love to do that. And
I appreciate that.
I would also serve as a moderator too, because I'm not sure if things would go hostile or something like that. Just be like, hey, nope, we don't do that here. Because I know some people, if they stand hard, things get violent. Or as violent as internet debates can go.
Never understood that.
Yeah, it's all tied up to identity.
Yeah, like I just don't get how someone could. Oh, this movie is me. Like I love 2014 so much, probably too much. I find like a new production detail every week or two. I'm always looking for some reason, or it just stumbles on me. But like, I'm not gonna just jerk it off for things that it didn't do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I've never understood that.
Like 2000's my baby, but like I'm
I
not
love 2000.
like people will always tell me like, oh well, the CGI swimming Godzilla is bad, and I'm like, wow, it's not like I've heard that before. It's not like I defend it. It's I don't know. It's come to the point where I've realized that like a lot, it's people are just tied to liking something as part of their identity, and the quicker you call that out, the quicker you'll see whether someone is being good faith about something.
It's a shame that we have to get to that point.
It's a shame, but I think that this is when things actually if things are going to be better, then I guess drastic times call for drastic measures.
Yep.
Some of the Iron Dome.
What is your favorite? Your favorite movie?
My favorite Godzilla movie? Ooh.
Godzilla and just movie in general.
Okay. So favorite Godzilla movie probably is Godzilla 2000. Favorite American movie, either Caught 'Em or 2014. It's always a toss-up, depending on what day you ask me. Favorite movie in general. I mean, if we're not talking about monster movies, my favorite movie might be Jurassic Park. But then if we're saying that's a monster movie too, I really liked Whiplash. Maybe the most out of their movies for someone to say they like that's a monster movie fan. I really like Whiplash. J.K. Simmons' performance in that film is amazing. Yeah. I'm not super big into jazz. I never played any jazz instrument myself, but like the music is really good. That acting, the emotion you get out of those films, as well as the cathartic end to that film, just it feels like such a release of all the pain and that the kid's going through. And I'm like, that's perfect. Perfect way to end off that film. And then I would say outside of Whiplash, 1917. It was really fun to see. I saw that twice in theaters. I have a home theater downstairs, so watching that with like a good soundscape, it's really nice.
Oh, what setup do you have for like sound?
I don't know off the top of my head. I will text you that tomorrow because I'd have to go check because me and my dad set up that together. But yeah, 1917's like you've seen 1917, right?
Yes, great movie.
Yeah. And there's also not like a lot of movies about World War One, so that was
everything's World War Two. And then when we do get like a mainstream World War One, it's Wonder Woman. It's like
no, and like there's so much interesting facts about World War One, and just the dynamic of that war compared to two is just so different, and it's really fascinating to see that. I would say maybe it's because two has. I'm speaking of them like they're movies. So 2 as a sequel was just objectively better than World War One, and I would say it's impacted the cultural zeitgeist far more.
The main antagonist, his motivation is a bit shaky.
Yeah, like
the way he affected the narrative was like really solid.
You can, and also not to mention the fact that how he took himself out. We can understand that the heroes wanted it so much, but there was no way, logically within the story, that the heroes could have. The only way to have brought around the narrative catharsis to the end of World War II as a film was having the main antagonist do himself in. And as the Russian tides come over, we realize that all is lost and the film closes.
Wait,
I was trying not to laugh.
You forgot the after credit scene where the towns go boom.
No, the after credit scene is once we see the Berlin Wall being constructed, and then that's how we got the Cold War, and because of the production issues, and it never became a hot war, it became a Cold War miniseries. However, we did get the animated what's it called, Yom Kippur War that happened in Israel. That animated show, best of the best. Objectively, really portrayed the issues between Palestine and Israel. So.
Oh, that's something. I got from Fred to this.
No. Did you ever see Krampus?
No, but I need to because it's
It's a
Lord
Doherty.
Doherty.
It's a fun horror film, I will say that. But I was thinking the Fredlings. I was imagining the elves from Krampus, but with 98 Fredling heads on them, and just call them the Fredlings.
Oh, boy. How is like Krampus like in just production wise, all that? Right?
There's a lot more practical effects in comparison to like something like Autumn. Hey, did you ever see Trick or Treat?
No, I've the only thing I've seen of Doherty, well, directorial wise, was King of the Monsters, but
Yeah, I would say definitely. Krampus is far closer to Trick or Treat than it is the Autumn in terms of what it does with its visuals, and I would say that it definitely there's no real fanfare to Krampus because I don't even think Doherty's German, so it's not really like he's hyping up his culture or whatnot. So it does a lot better. It feels a lot more interesting in terms of how it deals with a certain topic. And the ending, the twist ending, is actually a pretty fun one. So I would say that he made a better film with Krampus than he did with King of the Monsters. And same thing with Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat's better than King of the Monsters for him. I've always felt the fans will make a better film sometimes compared to a non-fan because at least they're going to have more care put into it themselves.
yeah, more passion.
Yeah, exactly. But with Doherty's case, I think it's because he was definitely a little bit more of the hyperactive kid who got the entire, like, he got Neapolitan ice cream and the banana and the strawberries and the whipped cream, and he just went to town, and then he delved into a sugar coma and never woke up. That's what King of the Monsters is.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. He went overboard. Like I like to call King of the Monsters Michael Doherty's wet dream.
It's a wet dream, and like it does too much for one film, and it just radically changed the course of the Monsterverse, and a lot of problems stem from Aftershock to Cottom and how the world changes as a result of that. And I would say, like, I know you're not into Star Wars, but like Cottom in a lot of ways is the Last Jedi for the
Yeah, I could
Godzillas
see
for
how
the
that.
Monsterverse films,
Yeah,
but like in more of a way where it's like it's trying to do too much, and it like messes with the original vision, but not in a malicious way, unlike Last Jedi, which is why I'll say I'll have a softer spot for it. That and because of my what's it called, a Godzilla fan anyway.
in terms of enjoyment for King of the Monsters, first saw it, was pretty disappointed. Started to really despise it when I like just broke it down and really like learned why it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But then now I'm starting to enjoy it, like ironically. It's just
So like I know for example, it was like one of the few Godzilla films I had on my iPad when I was still going to college. Like I had to directly go to my campus, and that was something I watched in and out. Or like when I had a break, I'm like, it's one of the only Godzilla films I have. I have that in '98, and I watched King of the Monsters in '98, and that definitely got me a soft spot towards it. And then plus, like once you have friends who really like the film and people bash on them, you're like, gotta go to bat for the homies sometimes. But then it's like that sometimes.
Sarazawa's got that lizard juiced.
I've never defended the humor of the film.
It's awful.
It brings down the entire thing.
Yeah, because it really messes with the tone.
Yeah, tonal whiplash. Yes.
But even then, the monsters bring down the tone itself because like their movements are just goofy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely has a little bit of that, too much of that show-ness in it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then so does GVK because, yeah.
GVK at that point, it's like we've lost the plot, so let's just go with it.
I wouldn't even say that it was good.
I would say this. I heard Monkey said a bunch of times in that film, so you know what? It's objectively good.
You know what? That's true. Poop. I'm wrong.
Drop the monkey. You're objectively wrong. How does it feel? You taking the L on
Man.
this?
Man, they say monkey. Uh-oh.
Mm.
My Discord profile's picture is monkey. I just man, I can't
Monkey.
betray him. I can't betray the monkey.
Can't betray the monkey.
I don't know if you found this, but I have been promising a GVK review since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to do it.
Do it.
I don't.
The world demands it of you.
Because I the way I've structured it, because I've already started part of the script. Spoiler alert for anyone watching. I've actually scripted it a bit.
Dun dun dun.
Announcement. I want to go into like literally every aspect of it, because I know if I break down the story, G fans are just going to be like, "Well, that doesn't matter. Look at the visuals."
Mm-hmm.
So I want to break down the visuals too, and just why they're just bleh.
Yeah, no. There's like it's just like fun to watch, but like there's probably a lot visually wrong with the film.
I'd say it's bland, because like me personally, I actually still can't figure out which is objectively worse, King of the Monsters or GVK, because they both have so many issues.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I've thought about it for so long.
Oh God, wow! Now you got that.
Because like they both have awful scripts. GVK is definitely better visually, but that's not saying much.
Oh, it might be down to like how many contrivances happen between both films.
That's true, but I don't want to look into that because then I have to dig into the films. But yeah, it's just I personally enjoy King of the Monsters more because just the visual aspect is so bad that I can't help but laugh.
I don't know, like I don't watch GVK as much as I watch. Well, I think actually no, I watched Kata more than I watched GVK. So it may just be because I watched Kata more throughout that time in comparison to GVK, where I might be more sympathetic to it, and maybe buyers are more similar apart in terms of that compared to GVK. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. I think my head turning.
The way I see it for enjoyment is King of the Monsters is funny bad. GVK is just like sad bad.
Ooh, I got one for you. What are your thoughts on people saying like Graham was wasted in King of the Monsters?
I think that's a really open-ended question, given the fact she wasn't much to begin with.
Exactly.
So
that's the thing.
I think it could go either way. If there was like the promise that if she stayed around, she could have done something, but I'd even argue that's not possible because
I would say that I would say that there's no reason for her to feel wasted because as a character, the first time around, she didn't do anything to begin with.
Yeah, she wasn't even really needed, to be honest.
Like, she honestly just feels like another character to bounce off Serizawa when Stens does that fine in 2014.
Have you heard what Zach Shields said about Serizawa and Graham?
No, what was it? Oh God. No.
Hold on, am I able to stream?
Stream or swear? You mean?
No, stream.
You should be able to, I think.
Okay, no, I don't swear at all. So.
Okay.
Let's see.
I was like, let's see.
Hold on. I have to pull something up. I have notes on like things in the special features.
Oh boy.
Yeah, one of them is it's something.
I think you can also recommend me to you can share your screen and then it's gonna pop up for me that I can show to the audience too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me find the one. There it is. Okay. So let me pull up the clip now. Have you seen the special features for King of the Monsters?
It's been a long time. Like I think the last time I watched them was back in 2019.
They're at least not the GVK special features.
Oh boy.
Which I know isn't saying much, but Oh yeah. Okay, Doherty. Let's see. Where is it? A lot of them that's actually this happens in the GVK special features too. Both of them are like they're like, we haven't seen this before, we haven't seen that before, and most of the things you have seen before. Like Doherty says, like kaiju movies are like, oh, you know, I'll just play the clip, which is like,
All right,
can
there
you see
we
the
go.
screen?
Yep, I'm adding it to the stream.
All right, there's
Did
good
you
old
add
Mike D.
I can do full screen layout too for us. Test the audio, just make sure it's working. That you added audio too when you shared it.
Can you hear it?
No.
Okay. Let's see.
Because you might need to. I'm going to remove it. Click off,
okay.
and then when you share it, just say add. I should say add audio is an extra function for you.
Share. Oh, okay. It's gonna have me do a separate thing. I have to. Here, let me get rid of the Fred stuff.
The Fredlings.
Let's see. The Fredlings, the beautiful Fredlings. It says you're gonna hear yourself if you're okay with that.
I don't mind. I'll just mute myself too.
There you go.
Let's see.
Yeah. For those, so I am live right now. For those on my live, oh wait, no, they'll see it through your end actually.
Okay, yeah, they should be able to.
We really wanted to build that mystery there, and I think the cold, harsh environment helped us a lot.
Okay, where is it?
And also, what it allowed
right here
was a place for us to have a first confrontation between Godzilla and Ghidorah that we hadn't seen in previous Godzilla films. We've seen monsters fight in cities multiple times, and of course we still do that. But to have their first confrontation in a sort of more open, vast, natural environment just felt a little bit more intriguing.
Wait, pause.
I don't think he saw the Showa series.
Yeah, like the first time Godzilla and King Ghidorah ever fought was in like, if you want to say there was a bridge near them that Ghidorah knocked Godzilla into. That's civilization, I guess. Like, what is the art? Like, no, they've definitely fought in open fields. They did it twice. Or not even, or Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Literally them in an open field fighting.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
no, but that never happened. King of the Monsters is the first one.
Yeah, it's
the first one.
I like.
And then here's where they talk about Graham and Sarazawa.
Nabe and Sally Hawkins from the first film.
They are, in a lot of ways, the mother and father of the Monarch organization. And since they both die in the movie, it makes it all the more tragic because we've grown to love them through their protection of humanity, through their reverence of these creatures.
Their protection of humanity, they failed to stop the first Muto, and like, oh my goodness. And like,
also, I
guess we could say Gran is
right
literally.
It tells you she's dead.
Mm-hmm. What about it?
This shot was a reshoot because test audiences didn't realize she died.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they had to tell you she's
My
dead.
goodness. Good Lord.
This is best Godzilla movie, people. Best Godzilla movie. There's plenty more, but that'd be for another time.
I'm actually now. I just realized I'm gonna have to go and look at the I have to look at the special features and be like, wait a second, what are you talking about?
Dude, there's just a lot of, oh, we did this and we did that, we did this, and where was this in the movie?
Yeah, no.
That's literally all the GVK special features are too. It's just Wingard. Wingard says that Mechagodzilla represents the evils of AI.
The evil? What do you mean? What? What? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean the evils of AI? It's literally some space dragon
No, don't think about
controlling.
it.
It's
It's
like
his vision. It's his vision. It's his vision. Don't
Goddamn.
question his vision.
Goddamn filthy
Wingard's vision.
fretlings. Just,
Don't blame the Fredlings.
no,
It's not
I do
their
blame
fault. They're perfect.
Yes,
What did they do?
We must slaughter the Fredlings at every opportunity we get.
No, don't hurt them. No.
Yes,
Don't make them pay for Wingard's sins.
they will pay for Wingard's sins. Fred died to pay for our sins. Through Fred's blood, we are healed. By his Fredlings, we are healed.
You know what? Then Fred has significance. Then
Yeah, he has
now you have
significance.
to like him.
Fredlings like if anyone's played Fallout, they'll understand this. Fredlings like you belong on a cross. The Fallout. Oh boy. Where's film gone? Oh,
I
where
need to
was
play
it?
those games. I need to play a lot of games. I need to see a lot of
You
movies.
should play Fallout New Vegas. It's a really good example of good writing in film. Not film in video games. Screen.
Film.
Oh, what's it called? Oh, yeah. So breaking this up because I was like, this was another thing I was gonna do. I was gonna be like, oh, since he did a Godzilla tier list, this was my Godzilla tier list.
Black right now, but
Oh, it's still on black. Come on. Why does it do this to me?
this is enjoyment based, right?
It's a mixture of enjoyment as well as what films I think do things better. Can you see it now or no? Is it still black on your end or no?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh, I gotta be kidding me.
So it's subjective.
It's subjective,
Yeah, unfortunately it is.
where it's more OBJ
Technology.
OBJ-jective.
It's
The one-
Wingard.
It's Wingard tech. It was made by Apex Cybernetics.
Ah, there we go. Fred.
Why does that?
Fred.
Why does the film do this to me? Come on.
I could see it now.
Oh no! Now it's a different
I see
screen.
where Fred is.
Oh, now you see it? No. Why?
Yeah, I
Freddy.
see where Fred is.
Yeah, Fred's down there where he belongs.
Wait, but it's F for Fred, right? Right.
It's F for
Right.
Fred. And more. And then what's it
Yeah.
called? There, Raids Against an E. It's low on the list. Are you happy now?
No, just Fred.
And Destroy Monsters can sit down there where the only thing I'm really hoping for is that end fight, which is okay at best.
Oh
That's the only
wait.
thing I really like about it.
Okay.
Gaigan can sit down there too. Same with Megalon, Crystal Meth, and then Melogic. And then there's Cotton.
Did you find the history?
Hmm?
There we
You
go.
literally just roboted for a second.
The crystal meth.
Yeah, Crystal Meth.
Okay, is my audio better?
Your audio's a little better now.
Okay.
Yeah, crystal meth can stay
So
down there in E
you
tier.
know the lore of Space Godzilla.
I do know the lore. Well, what's it called? He's not only thematic for crystal meth abuse, he's also the progenitor of the coronavirus.
Oh yeah, Corona death.
Because yeah, I actually have 2 of those cards. I'm gonna cherish them forever. And then they'll increase in value, then I can sell them for tons of money and be super rich. And then for D
That'll be
tier,
epic.
we got Lobster Dinner, a worse film, copying a somewhat better film. Pretentious, Itsy Bitsy Bugs, Moby Dick, but on 20,000 Years Earth, and then GVK. Which actually, yeah, this was
Epic,
on
by the way.
GVK was better than King of the Monsters, so that tells my mood. And C tier, we get Arians, Father-Son Bonding Time, Child Psychedelics, Actual Psychedelics, The Robot Wars. There's 2014. Actually, yeah, wow, they all ended up right there. And then King Ghidorah. Only good thing is the death, and then
It's symbolic.
B tier. All films I really like or thought were decent.
Nihilism.mp4.
Nihilism, yes. Then the 3 films I thought pretty good, and of course 54 ends up on top because you got to love the first Godzilla movie, guys. Please. But
Yeah. Wait.
You just cut out again.
Oh.
You cut out again for me. I'm sorry.
Is my audio?
I heard that. I heard is your audio.
Okay. No, it's fine.
Okay, yeah.
On. How about now?
You're good.
Okay. What do you think objectively is the best Godzilla film?
You just cut out when you said what is objectively. YouTube does not want us to know. I just heard
I'm gonna in the chat box.
Okay. You should be able to. Yeah, I think it should be able to tell me. You can tell me in private chat what it is too. Oh, objectively the best Godzilla film. That's a tough one. Either it's gonna be a toss up between. I don't know. Probably. I want to say either GMK 54 or Shin. I'd probably have to watch all those movies back to back, and then parse those out. But I would say out of the best films from the franchise, it would be those. If we're going on the argument that we can cut older films some slack because they're older, so therefore saying a film is objectively better because it has objectively better technology. 54 still is in the running between GMK and Shin, but that's something I'd have to think about. But those would be the 3 I would consider to be the most objectively best films for the series.
I am of the belief that even taking into account. Oh, is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so yeah, I'm of the belief, even taking into account the technical limitations, just taking into account age, because I do think that's very important.
Yeah,
I think GMK is the best Godzilla movie. I just think it has like the tightest narrative and good effects for what it has.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just think the narrative is pretty strong. 54, I think, is a great film. Like, definitely does a lot right. I think it's pretty overrated.
I would say that the one thing that holds that holds GMK back for me is towards the third act.
Yep.
the Mothra and King, how they play into that fight with Godzilla, some of it feels pretty contrived.
Yeah, and the
Whereas with
pacing.
Shin and 54, they don't rely on this as much, so they don't feel as bad to me, especially with the stone that gives Ghidorah his second wind. That, like, because that does help play a key role into helping fight off Godzilla some more, as well as how Ghidorah becomes quote unquote King Ghidorah, isn't really explained too well. And because both of those affect the outcome of the film in a major way, and Shin and 54 both explain how Godzilla is defeated a lot better. There's a little bit more logical through line between those two films. That's why I'd say they're still in the running in comparison to GMK. However, I would say the best monster film that has multiple monsters in it probably is GMK.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
And I would say, like, probably if like, I would say top 5 Godzilla films probably would be GMK, 54, Shin. This is in no particular order. Maybe against Mechagodzilla, because it's does a better job focusing on a single character more than any other Godzilla film. And then 2000, because it's got a pretty basic plot, but it does what it does pretty well for what it
I
has.
assume you're talking about the American version, right?
The American version, yeah.
Yeah. I still need to watch the Japanese version, but
It's
the American
really slow. It really feels slow. And, like, if you've watched the American film, then you watch the Japanese version, it feels like there's so much audio missing, especially the final battle between Orga and Godzilla. There's a lot more vocalization between the two, and the music is a lot more bombastic too in the American version, and it helps just make that scene feel less awkward.
Yeah.
As well as, like, some of the editing in the Japanese version compared to the American version, just, I don't know, it just does not work for me. Again, it could be a bias where I'm like, I've watched the American film so much where I can't really distinguish the two and, like, be a little bit more unbiased, but that's how I would feel about it.
Well, I also I remember there's a commentary about the guys, the editors of the American version of 2000, and I remember them saying that they changed a good amount of the dialogue too, and they just added stuff, which I think definitely
they added some and
helped.
they didn't. Like, I would say the only bad thing that they did was they cut out the scenes that talk, like, Millennium explains, like, why they're there, and
Yeah,
some of
I
their
remember
motivation
hearing
was
about
cut. That is probably the only thing they did wrong. But outside of that, they still do a pretty good job with the film.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely
for a while,
pacing.
they tightened out it's one thing that I've felt that if there's ever going to be more joint American Godzilla, like American Japanese Godzilla work, this was something I've always kind of felt in my head for a while, was that if they have, like, Japan had their Japanese cuts of Godzilla films, and then we had American cuts that may have done more to tighten up pacing or helped work with scenes, that could help make some of the films a lot more palatable, because considering the job they did from 2000, who's to say they can't do the same thing again? Because it's weird, because 2000's very much recognized as an objectively better film from the American side than the Japanese side, which usually a lot of people don't say, especially with the track record of 56 and Gigantus and 85.
Yeah.
Well, even 80, even I would say, like, they got, well, I won't even say they got better as they went on, because in a way they did, but then also Gigantus was really the only slip up, because 56 isn't that bad. Gigantus is really bad. But then 85, I would say the biggest sin it has is that they just have that one character that treats everything like a joke, which feels like a holdover from. Oh no, Steve Martin's, like, he's inoffensive there, but the one guy who's like,
85. I've only seen 84.
Yeah, 85 cuts it cuts the pacing down a little bit, so things get in a little bit quicker. But like, there's four Americans, like Steve Martin, 2 generals, and then one kind of lower ranking officer, and he just kind of makes a ton of jokes. He's the one guy who has the Dr. Pepper kind of product placement because he's drinking Dr. Pepper, and he just feels so out of place. And considering how serious the other three are, if you remove him, then the film just becomes a lot better and it keeps its tone more. But and then 2000 just does a better job overall. But I don't know.
Yeah. On the topic of tone, I do feel that is a big weakness of a lot of Godzilla films. Tone and pacing; those are the two things.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, especially in the Showa era, where the kaiju get more goofy, but the humans half the time stay relatively serious, and it just doesn't mesh.
Yeah, I would say the
Um,
biggest offender of that is both Mechagodzilla films.
yeah, yeah, which is
Specifically
sad on
Terror.
Terror's part.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Terror actually has some pretty decent and some good writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some good stuff on the human
What's
parts in
ironic
there, but the
is that,
kaiju.
you know
Oh
how
yeah,
Revenge is kind of a pretty lighthearted film? It's like,
yes,
outside of like one scene, Godzilla acts very serious in All Monsters Attack in comparison to how he acts in like Gigan, Hedorah, Megalon. Like I would say probably out of all the films that have monsters being silly, Megalon is the one that does it the best because that film is overall pretty silly. And then
I never
I
got
would
that
say
feeling from Megalon. I think the one that definitely does, I'd say the goofiness the best is King Kong versus Godzilla, because
yeah,
it's just a full on
it's
comedy. Like
it's
humans are
definitely
camp, the
supposed to be a
kaiju are
comedy.
camp, and it works. Yeah, it works super
Mm-hmm.
well. The tone is very consistent. Son of Godzilla, I'd say, is a good second runner because
Mm-hmm.
not it's not as consistent. There are some sore spots where it's like, I thought you were being silly. But the kaiju are relatively goofy. There's a goofy human character. I think that tone works pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. This definitely is a result of the fact that they realized Godzilla was being marketed towards kids, and this affects the like this affects how Honda's like all Honda Stones, which is from King Kong to Astro Monster. All those films have the monsters acting pretty goofy, but he writes pretty serious films. I would say the only one that doesn't do it the worst is Mothra versus Godzilla because it only has those two scenes with Godzilla acting pretty stupid.
Yeah, that's pretty. That has a great tone outside of those
Mm-hmm.
scenes because, like, yeah, the kaiju are handled very well.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last movie where it seemed like they were really putting effort into bringing the kaiju to
I was
life.
gonna say Ghidorah, but then I was like, oh wait, that have that whole sequence with Rodan and Godzilla.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh right.
and then they try to have like this serious princess story, and then these kaiju are like talking. Godzilla gets hit in the balls, and like it's what?
Twice.
Yeah,
Twice.
He's neutered.
Yeah. They love that scene. They use it again for Gigan.
What are you
Actually,
implying?
that's a
I don't know.
strong point for Final Wars is that the kaiju are goofy and the humans are goofy, but they don't realize it, so it comes off as an amazing comedy. That's how he meant when he said he wanted Godzilla to be real. He realized that everything needed to just be goofy and over the top.
Oh yeah, it's all part of his genius plan.
Mm-hmm.
He knew exactly what to do with Godzilla.
I was, and
Funny Godzilla.
ironically enough, like the only two, well, out of all the Millennium films, GMK, both Kiryu films, and then 2000, for the most part, have pretty good consistency between their monsters and their humans. But Megaguirus, there was some real just tonal whiplash sometimes with that fight.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
the
boy.
body slam or what's it called? Him just kind of looking around.
I find it really sad that I'd argue what's the word? It's like strategic Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame that they just the intelligent creature, because like his tail can grab onto things, a weapon for once.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
so refreshing. But then you just kill it with like
I would say the only thing that
Yeah,
worked that was a tone that was kind of tonally off was like when he gets like thrown into the building, or he gets back up and he kind of shakes his head. That's like probably like as kind of goofy as I would let that go.
yeah.
But like him just kind of be like, oh, where is it? I can clearly hear it. Or like the him getting stabbed in the nuts. I'm getting neutered again for the
Because it's
third
just
time.
like, oh, he's shaking it off.
Like, is he supposed to be really smart, or is he not know what he's doing? But I would say even the early Heisei films treat Godzilla with a good bit of
Man.
levity. Well, not levity, actually, with seriousness, but not levity. My mistake. Although
84 and 89, I'd say like tonally they're very consistent.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
something that I could give
Like,
those films.
it's really
And
weird.
they put effort into like
Yeah. Like I'm not sure like why it took them so long between Biollante and King Ghidorah, but it's definitely a shame because a lot of the changes between King Ghidorah and Biollante were as a result of how they felt that the only reason that film didn't do as well is because people didn't want to see a new monster, which I don't think was even the issue,
new
really.
kaiju.
Yeah, no, that's like it feels like in a lot
It's
of ways.
Toho.
If there's one thing that I will always criticize Toho for is that sometimes they change, and the reason for the change is almost always the wrong reasons. But I don't know. They seem to like at least right now with Shim with Singular Point.
I don't know what.
And you also cut out again. Sorry.
I don't know. Is this good? Is the audio good?
You just said I don't know, and then it just cut out again. Oh, one sec. Device. Yep, disconnect the device. Let me see. Let me add stream back. See if that works. Hello.
Hola. Is all good?
Shalom. Yeah, sound better now. Let's see. Let's see if it lasts.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know what you think about this, but or at least this is the impression I've gotten from like looking into a lot of the films and production and behind the scenes. I don't think Toho really cares for Godzilla. I think they just see cash cow, not much more. I definitely would say that has, but like, yeah, they seem to be coming around to the character. But I just feel like before that, they just treated him like a cash cow, not really caring.
I would say without a doubt, the biggest example of that is the Millennium Era, because they stopped for so long because they realized people got burnt on it with the Heisei films, because it kept on seeing diminishing box office returns. 2000 does okay, and then they decided to do the same thing they did again, and a movie every year. I mean, that's cool for us because like a lot of times Godzilla's going to change appearance. He's going to fight a new monster. G fans are going to be like, oh, cool, Godzilla movie every year. So we can say this was this year's Godzilla. But then like, I think some films do well just in spite of their like how rushed their production was, not because of how rushed their production was. Like I would say Shin is a very good film because of the fact that it had so long to be as good as it was. And I'm not sure how long Singular Point was in production for. I'd probably have to watch Matt's videos again on Singular Point because I forget if he actually had mentioned how long it was in production for. But that series benefited from how long it had taken between that and the movies. But like, I think like the more the series goes on, they just need to not do a film a year, actually take time off and just work on better stories and not treat Godzilla like a cash cow.
Yeah.
I also have to say, like with the American films, I mean, like I would say probably if anything, just hire better writers because the world building's all over the place. They don't really have any good characters.
Yeah, they've had this same writer in every film except King of the Monsters. Max Bornstein wrote 2014 KSI. I wonder what those all have in
That's so
common.
weird that he wrote. If he wrote KSI, that's really weird because that is so different to 2014 or GVK. Actually, no. He it was the Rossios who wrote GVK.
That
it's
was
just weird.
The story.
Oh yeah, the story.
Let's see. I think the screenplay, was by someone else. I hope that whoever they choose for the
show
TV series, just choose good writers.
Have you heard about the sleep meta? Because the sleep meta is essentially that
not actually.
After 2014 they had not seen Godzilla for years, so the meta and the meme is that we're not going to see Godzilla in the TV show because it takes place right after 2014 where he disappears for that entire year. So it's going to be the Godzilla show without Godzilla.
Oh yeah, that I didn't know it was called that. I pray. I know it would be hard.
Like if anything,
they dig up the old 2014 asset for Godzilla.
If they don't, I'm gonna be more convinced that they just don't really care at this point, because that's like they really should for the sake of their continuity. And if we're gonna have a quote unquote monster universe, can we please have at least a little bit of standards for keeping your continuity together? And actually, if anything, depending on what we see, we could see a whole new asset as well.
They really don't care about continuity because, like,
you were saying.
Oh, I'm just saying they don't care about continuity.
Yeah.
Like, let's see. Awakening contradicted 2014. Then, years later, Aftershock just messed up some stuff. King of the Monsters, oh boy, we have ancient cities. And then GVK, like, that in itself is a huge mess. The novels, which are apparently canon or something, except the 2014 novel, that's not canon because why not? Also, quick thing about KSI, Max Bornstein and two other guys wrote. Dan Gilroy and Derek Connolly wrote.
And they should bring them
alongside
back.
Max Bornstein.
Like, without a doubt, that was probably the strongest out of all the stories they wrote. That was probably the strongest because the rest are just wow.
Which unfortunately is I don't know if you know this, but the 2019 and the 2021 Godzilla assets.
One sec, you just cut out again.
The modified versions. Sad.
Wait. Now you're back.
Does this work?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. So yeah, GVK and King of the Monsters Godzilla assets are modified 2014 asset.
Oh, really?
Which is pain. Yeah, they. And what's even more pain is
if they're modified assets, then there's
I don't know if you know,
not even have the original 2014
asset now.
And I think you cut out again.
Well, I'd hope they'd have a coffee. Copy.
Yeah. They might have a coffee.
I said coffee instead of copy. Yeah.
They might not like a lot, even in the age where everyone likes those Easter eggs and insights. If they're modified
D-Neg.
assets, a lot of times people just remove the original asset. What they may have to do is they might have to, if they do use the 2014 design, they're probably going to have to use references from the original asset to recreate the asset.
Yeah. Which
Also
is
check Discord.
really saddening because I'm pretty sure. All right, that first one, the first 2014 asset took like a year and a half to make, and then they quote unquote modified it for King of the Monsters in 3
Jeez.
months. Minya. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Just as red the Minya Red Hurricane.
Let's see. Let me send you some things for research purposes.
Oh boy. Also, what's it called? Do you want to invest in my new cryptocurrency called Fredcoin?
Yeah, 100%. Where is it? Where did I sign up?
Okay, we'll have to.
Where did I sign
Well,
up?
right now
Fred
we haven't made a
currency.
website yet, but we will be making Fred coins. It's our all new cryptocurrency.
Okay. Will they have Fred on them?
They will have Fred on them, but they will decrease in value forever. So you'll be investing in something that will never come to pass and never make any money, but they'll have Fred on them. So I'd say it's a good investment.
But they're Fred. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
As well as we'll make. I know exactly how to get people nowadays to dislike 98 again. Just make Fredling NFTs. That is the ultimate way.
No, why would you do that to Fred?
When you hate 98 enough, you make NFTs so people will just start hating it again. I've broken the
You know
code.
what?
The
Let me
meme
go
is
make
mine
some
now.
GVK NFTs.
No, there already are some GVK NFTs. Remember?
Oh my god. Yeah, I know they are. Yeah, the monkey, the models and stuff. And what I
Yeah.
find hilarious about those is that they just ripped them.
Big good.
They just they're mine now.
Hippity hoppity. This is my property.
Full CG monkey. What's really dumb is like a bunch of G fans actually think that the NFT models are the models used in the movies.
No.
They genuinely believe that. It's so discerning. Like,
I hope that's a bit.
what? There's people that think that it's horrible.
No. You think they do? No. Oh, my sweet summer children. No. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just more proof G fans don't realize how the production process works.
Yeah, not to mention that, there's no way they're actually giving away the real models.
Yeah, no way any home system would be able to handle them.
Exactly. That'd be so funny if they actually did. They'd just hey, you can get the actual model. Just pay us $100. No, even better, $250 for the real model. Someone gets it and then it just bricks their computer.
That's probably what would happen.
Literally,
yeah.
It's a perfect money making scheme.
One time I had a discussion. Okay, have you seen King Ghidorah's model in King of the Monsters, like the main one that's used?
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's so gross. Wait, are you referring, have you seen the breakdown or the one that Doherty posted? Because the one that Doherty posted, I don't, it doesn't look, it has mains as well, which is something that Ghidorah didn't have.
I've seen both.
Okay, so the gross one that was in the breakdown, right? I was talking to a G fan, I'm like, this is the model that they used. It's in the actual breakdown. And they're like, no, it's not. I couldn't find it in the special features, so no, it's not. And I'm like, it's from MPC, the actual company that did the VFX, and they're like, it's not in the special features. It's like, I'm like, no, this is the model. It's from the studio. And they're like, no, it's not. This is the model. And then they sent me that like Ghidorah blanket,
Oh no.
you know, for the marketing. And they're like, this is the
Goodness.
model. I'm like, that's a marketing model. They make that for the marketing. They're like,
Why
no, it looks
people
like the
deserve
movie.
less.
They used it in the movie. No. No. We should just remove the First Amendment. Just yeah. No more speech.
This
No
is
more
again.
talk.
This is why so many people deserve less. This is why. What has become of our world?
I'm losing my mind.
There needs to be more media literacy.
I don't
Please.
know. Just
Please,
falling
we
apart.
need it.
Oh, we are the cause. We are the infection. Our
So
rightful rulers.
dumb.
Oh, that one scene.
I
don't
think
wanna
what
review
upsets
this
me more
movie.
than anything else is the fact that like that whole line of reasoning could be very interesting for a villain, but the reasoning she gives is incredibly stupid. Like I think that the concept of someone who actually did indeed think humans were an infection and saw the Titans as gods is a cool concept. But someone thinking that no, we are actually the infection, and it's like no, stop, no, please, no, don't do it.
Well, especially given the fact that her motivation is, oh, my son was killed by a monster.
I
Time
want
to
to release more
release
monsters.
more monsters.
You think that she would
Like,
she would
what?
want to have more government oversight over the Monarch facilities or have better kill measures for these Titans so that more kids don't die. I am about to commit mass genocide using giant monsters, the same types of giant monsters that killed
the
my
Titans,
children.
they're gonna. No. See, you obviously don't understand Mike D's vision, in that the Titans have good radiation. It's good. It helps the world.
Like, if there was some way, if that was like, let's just say in this universe, I will take the L that the radiation does indeed help with plants and stuff, but there are 2 cities now that are left completely jungified and uninhabited. How does that help any of humanity? We have lost one giant major city that is an export, as well as probably the only thing of economic growth for another state. Why is this in any way good for humanity unless you want to break down the system and destroy everything and create massive not ecological, but economic upheaval?
Wait, I'm sorry. You want real life consequences in your funny monster movie?
Yes, I would love.
What?
Yes, the man who would love to have a Godzilla, like a Mechagodzilla movie where Mechagodzilla is overseen by Warhammer 40k tech priest wants logic in his Godzilla movie. Yes.
You know what's really scary though is that I'm pretty sure, like, if you look at interviews and just the way Doherty talks about the movie, I'm pretty sure Emma is like his self-insert.
No.
Because he even said, he's like, if I could push a button that would make giant monsters real, I'd push it instantly. And like he says it as a joke, but I'm starting to think it's not a joke because just everything you see about him.
Wait, are you being unironic, Doherty? Please tell me.
Yeah, Doherty. Please.
Please tell me it's a bit, Doherty.
Sir, you should not be in control of the giant monsters. This will affect the economy.
This will affect the economy. Yes, exactly.
This will affect the group chat.
Sir, this is not very poggers of you.
Doherty, is it being poggers?
Doherty, it's not poggers to watch giant monsters in real life. It would cause massive economic upheaval.
What if it's Fred?
The Fredlings attack New York.
Yeah, they wouldn't bite, right?
They wouldn't bite. The Fredlings hit the big time. Well, actually, no. The Fredlings wouldn't be that much of an issue anyway. We just throw balls at them.
Oh yeah, just have them trip in midair.
Trip on these nuts.
I think those are underage friendlings.
Oh god, I'm gonna get canceled for this.
Also, check DMs. That I think this one picture describes Doherty.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh boy. Well, we know what he does in his dungeon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he does have a dungeon.
Are you sure it's not a dungeon or is it an island?
has all of his SH monster arts.
Welcome to Monster Island.
Do you think Doherty's the type of guy to buy all the merch for his own movie?
Yes. Honestly, I would hot take. I think most directors are the kind of people who would buy the merch for their movies, just all of it. And if they didn't have to wear suits and ties, they would just come in wearing their shirts, as well as like those like a little hat, a little spinny thing with like the name of the movie on it.
With the propeller hats?
Yeah, the propeller hats with like a little like their tie. It's a tie, but it's like a special tie which just has glowing reviews on it, like 5-star reviews with like the comments all over it. That is what I think a lot of directors are like.
Cinema.
You know what I would love to see is Michael Bay, Roland Emmerich, and Michael Dougherty in just a giant like discussion with each other about how they're one-upping each other as being the most bombastic film ever.
You know, I could give Doherty one thing. His movie definitely it works the bit rate. Works it really hard. Which is why I feel so bad for people when they're like, "Oh, I got King of the Monsters on digital." I'm like, how pixelated is that?
Extremely a lot of the times.
Oh, you have it on digital?
Oh yeah, no, that I have it downloaded on my iPad.
How pixelated is it?
It can sometimes it's okay. Other times, like if you don't got Wi-Fi, the film can like chug. And my iPad's like about 4 years old now, so I'm not. Maybe it's better on others, but mine a lot of times like I have to turn up the brightness a lot on my screen, and still sometimes it can be a little pixelated here and there. But honestly, all the transfers are like that, except GVK because I haven't checked that one because I haven't watched it on my iPad yet.
I say GVK. GVK got a really good transfer. Yeah, also the Hong Kong scenes are native 4K, which is awesome.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know any other scenes that are. I just have heard only the Hong Kong or something. Yeah, but Isolation, and it was when Mechagodzilla rises and are like when they first introduce him. There's like smoke. There's some pixelation there, but besides that, there's only so much you could do for a disc with that much like particles and stuff.
True. Also, you know how I was talking about the 98 trans argument.
Oh boy, yeah.
I wasn't kidding.
Okay, hold on. My phone stopped.
I have more. Don't worry.
Chugging. No, look at this. No.
That's only one.
No.
I'm going through them. I'm going through more of them.
It's a big lizard.
Fred Dingle, Fred Dangle.
Listen, I like Fred. Okay, I will defend. I will defend
Who would defend
concepts of Fred.
The he him Fred Dangle.
No.
Do you? You must.
Do you want to torture me? Is this my
I do.
punishment for
This is
liking
your punishment
Fred?
for not taking. This is your punishment for liking Fred and not taking the L in the debate. This is what you get now. How do you feel?
Oh. I gave you a V and I got a V. Is that good enough?
No, this is what you deserve. Suffer. Where's the other one? Looking for the other one. There was another one here that I had recently.
Monsters, dreads, coated. No.
Oh yeah, here's the other one I found.
Why would you celebrate a lizard being a? It's a lizard. Why would you celebrate that? They didn't even use Fred. They used. Is their tag G98 Defender?
Yes.
It's G98 Defender. I know I have in my bio on Instagram avid 98 supporter. But that's like ironic.
Wait,
of.
every G98 now and now who follows you? Wait, you were being ironic?
Like I mean, it's ironic in the sense of the movie. Obviously, I still love Fred, but like, I'm not gonna. No.
This is what you
Why?
get. This is what you deserve.
That's what I deserve. Okay.
This is what you deserve.
Let's look at this person's Twitter. That's
Are you
never.
looking at
That's
G98
never a good thing to
Defenders?
say. Yes. By the way, anyone streaming, do not harass them.
Yeah, of course. I think that if you think that because we are memeing on these people that you now have a right to harass them because we are quote unquote harassing them, you're stupid, and you deserve to be given a stupid award. I want to get G98 Defender on for a debate. I've always lambasted a lot of his tweets because a lot of times they contradict themselves, as well as he's more of the subjectively kind of people. So there's that.
I've never understood that. Like, if everything's subjective, why are you arguing? Why are you trying to make a point?
Yeah, if everything's subjective, then
Like,
there's no reason for you to argue
what's
it.
the point?
Like,
yeah. Oh poop! Douglas Trumbull passed away today. I didn't know
Who?
that. Oh.
Oh, actually,
Douglas
what's it called?
Trumbull.
Oh. But what's it called? Dakota just sent me a sketch of one of the commissions that he's been working on. You just finished that up.
he got him moving. This street.
I got him moving exactly.
First he exposes my hatred for the whole Godzilla franchise.
First I get you to admit you hate Fred, and now I get Dakota to finish up all my commissions. This is a good day.
Epic. Fred is cool.
Fred is epic. It's ironic because
Fred,
the picture I showed you, that's giving me the monster I'm using to replace Fred for my rewrite. Freddle is dead. I killed him.
Wait, for the what?
For the 98 rewrite that I'm gonna be officially publishing, this is the monster I'm using for my rewrite.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, he has 2 toes.
Yeah, I love 2 toes. I don't know, just the design aspect I've always liked. What time is it right now for me? Ooh, it's 12:23 and I have classes tomorrow. So do you want to end this right now and do you want to keep streaming later for yourself, or are we just getting into both on our ends?
I'm probably gonna end up both when you go to bed. I was already saying like coffee instead, whatever.
Obviously, since once again you're the newcomer onto my stream, want to plug everything as well as also either tonight or tomorrow, send me links for everything so I can add those into the description, so people know. Scooby-Doo.
I've never plugged.
Yes, you plug even on the
Instagram,
smaller even on the
great.
smaller channel. You will plug and shill, my child.
Well, now I was about to say you can plug as well.
I will
Like
plug
after
once
I
you
plug.
I'm the gentleman here.
Because there's some people watching, and also this will go on. Okay, all right. Follow me on Instagram, Braden.mexe. It is a pun. Post on that. YouTube channel HDD Productions. I also have a colorist page for like actual not funny silly work, which is just Braden Tinsley color. So that's cool. There's all no I don't have that.
No, even better. Fredling Toucher 89.
Oh, okay.
Fredling Toucher 89. No croissants, no monsieur. And you go on to Tinder and you tell her, you call this coffee, I call this America.
This is America.
Elvis Presley, he was the king.
You are the king, in fact, yes.
I would say
also send me your links.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So I can send me your link so I can put your stuff.
True. For myself, you can find me at Zimzilla99 essentially everywhere. If you want to game with me, it's Zimzilla99 for Xbox, Zimzilla99 for Steam. However, it's Zimzilla99YT for PlayStation because reasons. I'm on Instagram, DeviantArt. Don't really post too much on DeviantArt though. Also got Wattpad. Don't post on Wattpad though. I'm going to be like outputting a whole bunch of stuff that I have in the works. Obviously YouTube here. Same thing on Twitter, OGZimzilla99. Same thing, Facebook, got a page there for all you boomers out there. And Instagram, Zimzilla99. I do the kaiju thingies and I abuse Fredlings. But I have to say, I thank Brandon for being a amazing grace. I said not even really it's like a debate opponent, essentially just good discussionist on this tonight, which turned out a lot better than I was expecting. I was expecting to slap someone through the internet tonight, but this turned out a lot better than I was hoping for, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And for the 5 people who are actually still in the thing right now, thank you all for staying. But this has been Zimzilla. Oh no, you go. We don't say anything before. Obviously,
yeah, I was just gonna say I enjoyed it as well. I always appreciate a cordial discussion, and you're gonna, yeah.
And hopefully,
so,
actually, this will set as a good
really
precedent for all
nice
you
talking to you,
filthy crittens in the community to have good discussions, so we can all be cordial people. But anyways,
mimic the Mexican. I'm a good example.
The Mexican. Oh, man. I'm gonna throw you over the border. I just want to give me some
my Google. Please do. Oh. Ooh.
We're gonna throw you back over the wall.
I'm fine with you going there, man. I don't care.
We're doing it. What's it called? We're gonna build a wall and make the pay for it. That's gonna be that's my new role now in the Discord. Is now just Fredling abuser. You need to make that, and that needs to be now a new what's it called? A new role within your Discord is Fredling abuser.
Role. Hopefully you'll talk more in the Discord too. I'd love to.
Oh no, literally,
interact with you there as well.
I had barely spoken in the Discord
if you want to
because I was waiting for the debate. I was like, I don't want to come off as a certain way. I want to wait till like everything's on the table, so we're both here, so I know what's up. I know how he's like, and then maybe I'll start interacting more with the Discord. Like again, you have no idea the 4D chess that was going through my mind this entire time.
So when you joined the Discord, actually, one of my friends DM'd me, because he loves Fred
Oh, it's
a
like
lot.
real quick. I'm just going to end. I'm going to end
hold
the
on.
stream, and actually, we can hop in a Discord because that's probably going to have better audio on your end. So,
Okay, all right. So bye everyone
But-
on the stream. Make sure to subscribe to this epic man.
subscribe on his end too for any of
and
y'all who
also
have
praise
it,
Fred,
and
so.
abuse the Fredlings. Y'all have a good one.
No, don't abuse the Fredlings. No.